There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Oh shit! I've been muted this whole time?
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah,
hey!
yeah.
It hasn't happened all week. It's about time. Welcome everyone to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure. With me, as always, is my trusty co-host Eric McCartney and our guest co-host, Mr. Karasoth. How you guys doing
AKA
today?
Larry Bernard. I'm doing pretty good.
Should we do a slow clap for the boomer moment?
I mean, if you guys would like. I don't get many standing ovations, so, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting.
Shut the fuck up, Eric. Nobody cares. Oh, man. So, tonight, we have a very different kind of show. Because, as you guys know, I am not very drama-oriented. I watch it, I follow it, I see it. I usually... I'm about as fence-sitting as Boogie when it comes to actually getting involved because I really don't give a shit what grown people disagree about. It really has no bearing on my day-to-day life, and I can like people who disagree about things, right?
Right.
That's a fair assessment, I think.
Yeah.
But last week, we're gonna be doing a little time traveling today, guys. I want everyone to be aware that we're gonna be going back in time. So,
also something that I always think whenever these drama scenarios occur, we need to really put into perspective. Basically, this is this very active and hyperactive percentage of the people who follow this stuff on Twitter. Like most people just don't get involved. And if you got a YouTuber involved there, it's a small portion of that audience. So it's like a small portion of a small portion. And we always need to apply that context here because it helps us judge how, bro, what are you doing? Please stop. You're making a fool of yourself moments in this whole sort of thing.
Right. And the thing is like I said, I don't give a shit what two grown people disagree about over comic books. I can't even remember what I was mad at yesterday because so many things have made me mad today. I absolutely...
I'm assuming it's some sort of technological issue. But...
Well, what... You might not be wrong. I mean, there's like three things that piss me off in this world. My computer not working, my whiskey being gone, or being out of cigarettes. Those three things. I can't... Nope, I'm done. I'm over it. But, seriously...
Or having to eat vegan food.
Oh, no, I'll just starve, thank you. You know, I think I'll make it happen, but I'm not happy that it says Chip on the screen. Yeah, you can change your Discord name. I just you can override my name change. I think I have to go in and stop you from changing it back.
You can do that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, wow. I could lock your name if you piss me off bad enough, but I would never do that to my trusty co-host Eric McCartney. Anyway, sorry, I had the chat. But no, I follow this stuff, and I understand the allure of watching it from a distance. Like I mentioned to you, can I call you Larry? Larry's just so much easier.
You can call me Larry. Okay. Larry's fine.
All right. You know, we got Church, Ayrton, and Karasoth. That just my accent. It just sounds bad, man.
Yeah. Larry's fine.
Larry rolls off the tongue a little easier. When I see this kind of stuff, I understand, and I was talking to you about it before the show, is that I get the fascination with the drama because of the soap opera. You know, people live for that shit. I mean, if you ever try and tell...
Also,
Go ahead.
also, our good friend Twitter, they sure do love things that increase their algorithm.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you get a lot of interaction, it's going to push that shit to the top, and more people are going to join in.
Yeah.
But just to give a little pre-con here before anybody sees or says or anything like that, I maintain my position. Pretty much everyone involved, except for one person who has me blocked because I follow a certain other's person. I follow all these people on Twitter. I understand their positions, even if I don't agree with them. There are people out there that don't like the war campaign. I think those guys are hilarious. Do I think sometimes that maybe the dog pile is real? Sure. But this is the internet. We're grown-ups. I can just shut the screen. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, it's not like
But
the old west where you're going to get into an actual shooting duel.
Well,
where you
the thing
disagree with
is,
someone.
the thing is, there's the thing we like to know. We know on the internet nomenclaturally as gay ops,
Yes.
where people pretend like they're spies and doing bullshit with doxing and calling people's work. And if you're like Maddox, claiming to be somebody from Harper's Bazaar magazine and shit like that.
Right. Well,
and the problem is with gay ops is accusations of gay ops always sound believable, but there's usually not any good evidence.
No. Oh, they're in a Discord. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Discord.
exactly.
Not a Discord.
Exactly.
Oh my God. They're in a Discord.
And also, whenever somebody successfully admits to gay ops, you never believe anything they say after that point isn't part of some elaborate gay op or some attempt at an elaborate gay op.
Right. I'd like to thank the skeptic community for ruining anyone's credibility on the internet whatsoever.
Yeah. So like if you run a Discord server, so for anybody out there who runs a Discord server, if you see somebody on your Discord server trying to run a gay op, just ban them.
Yeah.
Ban them right away. And say, here's my ban log. Here's when I banned that little bitch.
Yeah. But
we don't tolerate this around here.
The main thing is,
it's almost like it's simple.
Yeah.
But the main thing is like a lot of people will follow this stuff and they'll get involved in it and it wraps people up. But my main point that I was trying to get across is that, I don't remember what I was mad about yesterday. I damn sure don't remember what I was mad about 2 weeks ago to keep being mad about it. I mean, life's too goddamn short for all that, right?
Right.
So when I saw this, and I saw this 2 weeks ago, and I thought, okay, well, that's done and over with. It was kind of funny for a day. And then I just keep seeing mentions of it for the next week, and I'm like, well, that's kind of weird to blow this up. And you guys will see. I'll start going through the links in a minute. But I'm just trying to give a little backstory here. When you see something for a week develop, and then a week later it comes across again that it's still being brought up and it's still being mentioned, and none of the original players are still involved. So I started going backwards from that point to try and figure out how this links together. And I think I've figured it out to a certain extent. I invite anyone who knows anything about this side of the internet.
The first link you have, you actually want to go back one more step.
Well,
to the original post from Peter that started it all.
Well, that's why I have that particular one brought up so that we can see the context of what's being said. I was trying to shorten the list of links. Originally, when I started this show, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about these 3 tweets, and then we can move on to something else. And it kept going and going. And then I saw that video, and I was like, what? Wait a minute. And then it kept going and going. But yeah, we'll go back from that original tweet. We'll do that.
Right. So, what I like about it is, Peter, we all know Peter's comic experience, and George is making his argument. So, you guys know who Neon from over at Clownfish is, right?
Right.
He used to work at Disney on the publishing side for comics at one point in time. So this is George. I don't know George's background all that well. Arguing with two guys who have published professionally.
Right. As far as I know, I'll go back one step. Ayrton, you don't have to do this because I know you're a boomer. But yeah, we'll go ahead and go
Right.
back one step, and then we'll get started, and then I'll just go back to the original first tweet that you have, Ayrton, and we'll start there.
Yeah.
So, November 13th. What was that? That was 10 days ago. That was Wednesday of last week. Petersen Mehta gets some bad news. And, we haven't been doing our duty of our regular Petersen Mehta shill. If you guys aren't following him on Twitter and YouTube, definitely do it. We love Comics Pete.
You should.
He's
And
a
also,
great guy.
normally he's one of those people promoting rational discourse on Twitter for comics people.
Absolutely.
But
99.9% of the time.
But this situation annoyed him to the point that he fell off his normal branding.
Well, I wouldn't even say the situation annoyed him. I think the stress of the situation kind of brought out a little hidden sarcasm, but I don't think it was malicious.
Yeah.
The way Peter responded, I think he was just frustrated, and he was like, "Yes, we'll see, we'll get there." So this is the first tweet at Petersen Mehta on November 13th. Just got some terrible news from our newsprint web press printer, and that's the printer that's in the thumbnail of a large scale version. Those things are about as long as 3 trailers stacked end to end, the industrial ones. They're huge. You have to have a lot of space. They cost a lot of money. And typically they take a 3-man team to run.
Jeez.
Yeah, I ran one of those, like a small scale one when I was in high school, and you still had to have 2 people to deal with it. So, and I'm going to have to scramble to find another one. This isn't the best way to start the day, but it is what it is. So obviously there you see, Petersen Mehta's kind of bummed out about the situation.
And every small businessman's had something like that happen to them, where something that's absolutely crucial to their business that they can't afford to have in-house has took a giant dump.
Right.
Yeah.
George Alexopoulos, G Prime 85 on Twitter. Nice guy. I've never have anything bad to say about him. I follow him. If you're into indie comic, check out his book, The Mary Sue. We're probably going to be covering it at a later date on the program.
Mm-hmm.
He has some experience printing in-house his own comics. He has a small-scale printer, from what I understand. And he's offering up an idea that he lives by. This serves as a good example of why it's good for any creator to consider buying their own print equipment. It's more work, but you have zero dependence on outside sources. If something goes wrong, all you have to do is apply some elbow grease. And that's not the worst take in the world, but you have to look at it from Petersen Mehta's situation. And it doesn't always look the best, right?
Yeah. So actually, I had a conversation with a grocery store clerk about that. I said, I could shave my head myself, but there's always going to be little divots, little pieces that aren't really done right.
Yeah.
Or I could just pay $13 to go to the barber and have it done right the first time.
Exactly.
Is that
Right.
trying to do it yourself and then have it not be right? You're not looking sharp. You're not looking prim and proper. Is that really worth what you save?
Right. And if you're trying to get a job, absolutely not.
Yeah.
If you're trying to present anything directly to to anybody, like if you're trying to make an impression, then you don't want to have a shoddy haircut, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Peter responded. Now I don't have this queued up for you guys, but I will bring it up on the screen. And obviously, since I'm just reading a tweet, you don't have to see it. I'm sure you saw it, Larry. So
Yeah.
I'll just bring it up. Ayrton, it's a tweet. I'll just read it. It won't be on screen that long. But Let's see, 1280, 20. On the fly, we're doing it live here, folks. Petersen Mehta responds to this. Again, probably because he's stressed out about his day, stressed out about the news he's gotten. Brings out a little sarcasm, a little sting, little sting in his response here. Says, sure, I'll just launch a full-fledged web press printing production plant for about $2 million, complete with a trained team of technicians, print specialist crew, machinery, and supplies. Seems pretty easy to me. Why didn't I think of this before? Thanks, George.
I don't have any problem with that answer. That's a perfectly reasonable answer.
Yeah,
Well,
I would agree.
again, my position is, it is sarcasm. It is a little bit of banter, but it doesn't seem malicious to me. It doesn't seem like
No.
Petersen Mehta's going, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot." Why? But he has thought about this, and for his purposes, he feels that he would need about $2 million, a trained team of technicians, print specialist, crew, machinery, and supplies. And that's probably a little outside of his means, considering not 6 months ago he was talking about potentially hiring a college intern part time. He doesn't seem to me like he's probably not hurting for money in any sense of the word, but he definitely is running on some thin margins, I think.
I mean, I think one of his comics actually is in a production deal right now with Netflix, so he's got like something on that.
Really?
Well, I don't count another man's money, but
Yeah.
but it's probably never fiscally responsible to just think, oh, I'll just spend $2 million. It'll be fine. Even if you have $4 million, right? Like spending half of your net worth is probably not a good idea.
No, if you're following Peter's business plan, his eventual goal is to have his own comic printing operation and distribution network for indie publishers. So, yeah, eventually that might be a good idea if that catches on.
But it's not a reaction type move, I don't think.
No.
And part of the reason I wanted to do this, just to break aside for just a moment, part of the reason I wanted to do this, I want you guys in the chat to comment, sound off, let us know like what your thoughts are on these reactions, because from what we're looking at right here, you will never ever in a million years guess where this show is going to end. And also, I will take this time before we bring up the second link that I sent to you guys to put out to the chat. There are some videos associated with this. If you'd like to skip through them, we can. Or if you'd just like us to kind of talk about the fact that they exist and move on, we can do that too. That would be, I think, everyone's choice on the show.
Yeah,
but,
option 2 would be pretty great.
But, as the chat, being the chat, you guys showing up to watch this, I'm going to leave it up to you. We can thumb through the videos and comment on those, but I don't think that it'll be necessary. However, it's up to you guys. Commie Mark, how's it going, buddy?
We can use it if we run low on time.
Yeah, we can go back and if we need to fill a little air. If we do that, we'll just start singing karaoke, boys.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, the second link is also relatively reasonable. What's on the second link?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and pull that up right now. So the second link, I'm actually gonna scroll up on this link. I picked these links because they contain the most context. So George responds the next day because this topic is still going on, and from what I gathered, it seems that a lot of people that are really friendly with Petersen Mehta and that side of Comicsgate, because even though Petersen Mehta is not Comicsgate, he's kind of Comicsgate.
We're all in a reactionary sphere of the current comics culture. We're all being reactionaries and trying to get our own little comics counterculture brewing.
Right.
Yeah.
So people from his sphere they've dogpiled George. I mean, not going to sugarcoat it. Fans.
Yeah, like when George came up with his master plan, I was like saying, I'd like to honestly hear your hard numbers to see if it's actually, worth it to me to try that.
Yeah. But he puts out this tweet in response to the reactions he's been getting for over a day at this point, because you see we moved on to November 14th. He says the Earth revolves around the sun. Everybody knows the Earth is the center of the universe. Flight is possible. Why aren't humans born with wings then? You can't print cheap books on newsprint. That business model will never work. Or you can print cheap books on newsprint. That business model will never work. These are all like reactions, right? And then he says, obviously referencing his post to Peter, he says, creators can print books at home. And then you see someone responds, Wegner, why doesn't Petersen Mehta just draw every comic individually by hand?
If I remember at this point during the time, everybody was giving George shit. Like, I think John Mellon said, like, I actually artisanally crush up the pigments to make my own printer ink.
And, again, I have nothing against George. I don't want anybody to harass George or give him a hard time.
He can clear the trees himself and, grind down the pulp and press the paper.
Artisanal paper.
Yes, absolutely. But,
vegan, cruelty-free.
When you put yourself out on the internet, when you develop any kind of following, I'm not immune from this. If I say something stupid, people are going to tell me it was stupid. And I don't think what he said was stupid, but I think the fact that Petersen Mehta came off as sarcastically as he did, people that follow Petersen Mehta took that as the opportunity to say, hey, fuck this guy. We're going to give him a hard time. And if you can't deal with that happening...
That's kind of what happens.
First of all, if you make an extreme claim that goes contrary to conventional wisdom, you need to back that up with extreme receipts.
Absolutely.
And he didn't really have receipts, so everybody thought he was being full hot air.
Well, he did say that he does run his own independent printing stuff. He does small scale runs. He says he can run off 3 books a minute or something on his stuff. But I think that might be page count correlation, or he's having to cut pages and bind them together himself, or he has a different kind of setup. Either way, I don't know.
He was talking about doing his own binding too.
Yeah, and Petersen Mehta
handcrafted comic books.
Yeah, and Petersen Mehta chimed in and said, if you have to do 500 or less a month, yeah, there's some reasonable ways to do it. But you look at Alterna, and Alterna's pumping out between 10 and 20 titles a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't count print partnership. Yeah, and that doesn't count print partnership books that aren't Alterna. And if you're only doing maybe 4 copies of each, and yeah, you could do it in your own home, but I'm pretty sure he's shipping thousands of these things. So,
he's got a network of 50 stores or thereabouts.
Something like that. Plus he's in retail, convenience stores and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah. He's got some convenience stores in New England he's in.
And then he's distributed by Diamond as well, so he has to send them an allocation of books. He's printing a lot more than could be done at home. He's publishing a lot more than he could print.
Yeah. So let's say conservatively, Peter's printing out 50 to 100,000 a month for 10 different titles.
Right. So those are conservative estimates, but whatever. So we get down to Clints from Sweetcast. You guys might remember that I was on Sweetcast with Clint and Vaughn and oh god, I'm being a horrible human being. This is the alcohol. Can never remember names.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. But he letters everything. Kyle Ritter's.
Honestly, I'm surprised you remember my name.
Who are you?
Show to show.
Yeah, exactly. Where's my horse? But oh man, this is gonna make me feel so bad. I promise it's nothing personal, lettering guy. Eric Weathers.
Just call him lettering guy.
Eric Weathers, the guy that letters everything. I was on a show with them, so that's where I figured these guys out. He responds, George, to be fair, and this is a completely fair response, like Larry said.
Yeah.
To be fair, you can't expect no reaction. Double negative there, Clint. For shame, for shame. You can't expect no reaction or only a positive reaction when you do stuff like this. If printing all those books at home is a serious suggestion, you should expect serious scrutiny.
Exactly.
And he responds again with a fair,
reasonable response.
Yes, a fair, reasonable response. George comes back and says, I see that big claims need big evidence. My failure here was not sending out my books before announcing my methods. I'll have data in a month or so. Otherwise, I'm doing tests that nobody else has published results for yet. There's value in that at least. I mean, fair. And he even makes a response later on saying, I'm done talking about printing until I ship a book. And it goes on. But, and then somebody comes to his defense, and it goes on. But this kind of stuff, like, you see, there's 17 more replies after another response from someone, and then another response for Clint. It just, this stuff nets some serious, like, discussion and debate, and I think that's healthy. I do think that is one thing the quote-unquote drama sphere has lent us, is that it does eventually filter out into some healthy intellectual debate and some healthy, like, discussion about things when it leads something like this. Because comic creators discussing the cost of printing and a better solution than depending on third parties is always a good thing. I've always kind of seen the end game of Comicsgate being some kind of unified, not maybe loosely unified network of people, all who have different things to offer the community, but not depending on any one particular outsourced company that didn't care about comic books. You're already seeing it with the way that the news spreads about new comic books through YouTube videos and Twitter promotions and mailing lists and campaigns like that. That's all being done without a dollar being spent. I mean, obviously people are putting their time and money into it, but there's no advertising campaign, yet these books are making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
There are people who have more moderate to modest books who are doing fine just doing Facebook ads.
Right. And, Doug TeNapel. Doug TeNapel does Facebook ads, and that's a lot of response from that. Say what you will about Doug TeNapel, but he's a hell of a marketing guy.
JDA does Facebook ads, I know.
Right.
The people from Mythic are also doing Facebook ads, and I forgot which one of the people I talked to there, they said they're doing decent business off of Facebook ads.
Now, you do have to put a good bit of money into that, but what I'm getting at, though, is that there's a large network of people who are coming together and creating this new subculture in comics that are all about advertising via social media for free, essentially, by exposure. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next link, though, and just see kind of how this kind of start to take a weird turn. You start to see some strange things happening based on this whole discussion. So Clint, having come to Petersen Mehta's, like, defense, I guess it's not even the right word, but Clint having said something about Petersen Mehta and jumped into that conversation.
Clint having said, "Hey, you need to settle down."
Yeah.
you need to settle down here.
You're talking to Comics Pete, okay? Nah. But no, Clint having been involved in the discussion at all, he jumps on and he's like, hey, we're gonna have Petersen Mehta on for an interview, and then he makes a joke. He says he'll have to answer for literally everything he's ever done, said, or imagined. High drama. Super chats welcome.
And there's also a Festivus reference.
Yeah.
So again, we're still in the humorous banter portion of this train wreck.
Right. So at this point, there is a live stream held that we're not going to go through. Let's check in with the chat and see if they've given us a definitive answer on whether or not they want us to stun through these videos.
No, they're ignoring our request.
Okay, good. That's for the better. That means no. That means they don't want.
Let me say something personal. Is I used to watch a whole lot more live streams, and then I started doing a 1 to 3 hour live stream every Friday, and then like that sapped my ability to watch live streams on a consistent basis.
You know, I feel that.
I'm kind of there. Yeah, I'm there with you.
There's only a couple that I do watch, and I don't even watch them. I listen to them. That makes sense. Like while I'm working or while I'm doing something with a project or something. If I'm not reading and I'm not like directly interacting with my family or paying attention to actual people, I have an earbud in and I'm listening to something. But I can't sit down and just watch a stream anymore like I used to. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I see Mrs. Church in the chat. I drew a comic book once and made people give it back to me after they read it because I didn't make copies. That's how you save money. That's absolutely, yes, absolutely. That is what you do. You make one copy, you laminate it.
Charge $1 to read it.
You charge $1.50 so you can get that return shipping label in the package, and you send it out. And if they don't send it back to you, you charge them $100,000 for it.
Well, you do a safety deposit of like $12.
No. You don't understand. You charge them $100,000 for it because it's a one-of-a-kind copy, and that's how much you had planned on making off of it. You do like Netflix did.
No, so basically you pull like a Banksy.
Yeah. But anytime someone ships it back, you just ship it to the next person on the list. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go draw one comic book now. Just abandon the stream. But yeah, at this point, Sweetcast made a point about having Petersen Mehta on. They had a great stream. It was a good time. I did listen to it when it happened. I think I was at work or something. I was working on some kind of art project, and I just had him in an earbud. But it was fun. It was interesting. But at some point, somebody came on and did an impression of Comic Book Hut during that show. And Comic Book Hut, for anybody who doesn't know, isn't a very well-liked member of the main Comicsgate community. He has always kind of had a bone to pick with Ethan Van Sciver or anyone who doesn't disavow Ethan Van Sciver. Is that a pretty fair representation of Comic Book Hut? Because I follow EVS and Cecil, I believe he blocked me when Cecil started making fun of him.
Like, I actually haven't heard of him until going over this chain. I just assumed he was like some rando person.
Oh, no. Comic Book Hut has been around for a while, but we'll see how he generates most of his content. He puts out a video called Petersen Mehta Trolls a Customer on Sweetcast live stream. And as you can see from the tweet, we really don't have a lot of reach or interaction. Clint, I think, I'm not sure if it's a troll response, but he's just like, good video. You know, Clint doesn't really care. He's just
and then the Sleestack wanders in.
Right. Sleestack wanders in, and again, I follow Sleestack. We follow each other on Twitter. We're both comic guys. Sometimes he does have some things that I agree with that he says. I don't agree with a lot, but just because he doesn't agree with my particular way of thinking doesn't mean I hate the guy. You know, I got no problem with him. He's never directly attacked me. Why would I block him or mute him or anything like that?
But basically, so far, Comic Book Hut's the first person to really escalate this feud.
From the outside, with no reason.
Yeah.
He's basically Japan during World War II. Like, hey, the U.S. isn't in the war. I'm going to go bomb their shit so they get in the war.
But yeah, Sleestack wanders in. He's like, after a year or so of me heavily promoting Petersen Mehta and Alterna Comics by retweeting their tweets, Peter unfriended me on Facebook and blocked and unblocked me on Twitter, forcing my account to unfollow him. He refused to say why. Now he pulls this garbage.
Is
Wallet's closed.
And who's
is it
the
because you're
person?
kind of a twat though?
Who's the person
Comic book.
after that who has me blocked?
Oh, that's going to be
Jake?
Jake D3S Chain. He says he stays
I
quiet.
totally read that as Shane.
Yeah, I mean, who is that person?
I have no idea. He's got the Batman who laughs as his avatar.
And that's the thing that kind of kills me whenever I get into the whole comics Twitter drama. It's like, who the f are you, and why are you blocking me?
Right, like I've never talked to you. What's going on? He stays quiet through all the harassment and bullshit, only to go nuclear from a guy who suggests an alternative method of printing. So already we have someone taking his sarcastic, snarky response and saying that he went nuclear. I'm sorry, that is a bad take.
Man,
Sleestack can think
if
whatever he wants of Petersen Mehta for any interaction that he and Petersen Mehta have had. Whatever reasoning that is, again, has nothing to do with me.
Right.
I am a third party. Just because I like Petersen Mehta doesn't mean I hate Sleestack now, right? And anybody that can't understand
and
that, yeah, they're a giant twat. But I don't expect Sleestack to agree with me or everybody that I like. He hasn't blocked me because I like and follow these people, so why should I do the same to him, right?
Yeah.
well, and the thing is, if being snarky on Twitter is the same thing as like exploding on somebody, then my entire
Your entire
Twitter feed
is you just
me
going
exploding on
bananas.
people. Yeah, like fucking Donkey Kong, just chucking barrels at people.
Yeah. But no, I just don't understand why this is being misinterpreted as going postal, quote unquote, or going nuclear. But
And honestly, I'm not going to say this. I mean, it's going to come out sounding
Yeah,
bad,
say it.
but so Sleestack's part of a group of people who are griefers. It's like in a video game that you grief to get attention, to get clicks, to get people invested in you, and all that. So there's like griefing in a video game, but with actual real life people having actual real life interaction.
Michael Beacon in the chat says Comic Book Hut is a real life Eric Cartman.
Uh,
I wouldn't know. He blocked me for no reason, so I've never interacted with him.
I wonder, can I? If I'm blocked, I'm gonna go find out
Yeah. Well,
while you continue. Well, that seems to happen a lot. You're blocked by people, and they don't block me too, which is a bad idea.
shh! Don't tell him, Ayrton. You'll ruin our game. People will
Nope.
figure out that I'm you.
I'm totally following him. All right.
Oh, and then we have Sleestack getting a little conspiratorial about war campaign.
Right. So this, I scrolled up to the top of this one too because again, it had some good context tweets in line. So I scrolled up to the top of this one. We're skipping the Comic Book Hut video, Ayrton, and then we're just going on to the next tweet. So.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely hit the wrong link.
Oh no.
Okay.
We've got Clint coming out and saying, after getting some shit for running a live stream and poking a little fun at Comic Book Hut or whatever, he's now getting shit and beginning, from what I gathered, he got I don't know what's the word for it, interrogated about his relationship with the war campaign and why he's cool with those guys when they're the worst. And
oh my stars, I must clutch my pearls.
But Clint comes out and he just asks the question, when did comics become such a Puritan community if you need to be 100% morally pure to make comics, there would be no comics left to read. Then someone, going down the line, Clint, I make comics about giant naked chicks with huge dicks. I'm out, buddy. Sorry. All we want
all the
is
power to you, my friend.
I
all
was
we
just saying, why didn't you let me know for like your crowdfunding campaign, Kevin Strange? You should have let me know.
That's my fetish.
Hold on. His profile says creator of many weird comics, feature films, novels, and conservative opinions.
Yeah.
Did we just find Donald Trump's sock account? Is this man Donald Trump? Is Kevin Strange Donald Trump's pen name?
let me try and read it in a Trump voice. Creator of many weird comics, feature films, novels, and the best conservative opinions.
Huge conservative opinions. But
I write comic books about giant chicks with huge dicks.
Huge.
Fuck you, Elizabeth Warren, you Pocahontas bitch.
Anyways,
all
we
so,
want.
So,
go ahead.
So then Sleestack throws in with more conspiratorial talk.
Right. You claim to do a news show about Comicsgate, Clint, yet you refuse to cover the story about the harassment that's destroying the movement. Now, this again, it's something that Sleestack and I disagree on. I think to try and control someone else's content and tell them what they have to cover is the easiest way in the world to get them to never cover it. I'm not sure.
Unless you're us, we'll cover anything.
Well, you have to pay for it. We're whores.
Yeah. Also, you should go see some of these people who are anti-Ethan Van Sciver on Kiwi Farms in the Comicsgate thread. And there's actually a second thread that's all about people griefing on Ethan.
Yeah.
And none of them can form a cogent argument.
Imagine my shock.
Now, the people who aren't actually griefing on Ethan Van Sciver, there are people on Kiwi Farms who give him absolute shit. But like the people who are there specifically to grief on him cannot form a cogent argument about why Ethan is a bad guy or why War Campaign is terrible.
He continues on to say, I thought you were a good guy, yet you're willing to cover all sorts of other drama, but not if your friend EVS is at fault. Clint says this just isn't accurate. Do you watch my channel? And here we have the main focus. I used to watch your channel, yet when I saw something that piqued my curiosity, yet you had Peter on, but not George. Why would he have George on? The show wasn't to talk about Petersen Mehta and why George was just wrong. I think that topic may have come up, but I think it was just kind of bring Peter out of the dumps and have a good laugh.
Also,
it was like a goof stream.
Also, if you're running a YouTube channel in a scenario like that, you don't want to open with both sides on it for a debate. You want to have each side tell their story, and then you do a third video where you bring them both back together.
Right, yeah. Or let them all work it out. But from what I could tell, this is the 16th. He's talking about a video that happened on the 14th. That was a day after all of this happened, and from the original thread and from a look at George's timeline, he or Peter never brought the other up again after that initial discussion. They were both over it.
Because they both realized, like normal human beings, Peter kind of was a little snarky at me, but, I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And I have a different opinion, but, yeah.
Right. So, he's like, then you write a tweet that uses very similar rhetoric to what the War Campaign uses to justify online harassment. And that's why I'm trying to get you to clarify things. Clint says, I had George on several times. I promoted his book and backed his book. I don't use War Campaign rhetoric. I don't know what else to do for you. And again, I think Sleestack was kind of in the wrong here. That's fair to be his opinion, but he obviously has some damage with War Campaign, and
Also, if you're going to make a claim that a man's using their rhetoric, you want to have your receipts there. You want to have the tweet in question and then the similar War Campaign tweet.
Now, before we move on to the next link, I actually kind of want to talk about that a little bit. When we talk about receipts, back 4 or 5 years ago, hell, maybe even further back than that, but nowadays it's just so prevalent to be able to fake that nonsense. How valid are receipts even? Like, if you didn't watch it take place firsthand, should you really actually believe any of this, like, screenshot bullshit?
I mean, to be fair, I see people, screenshot like Donald Trump tweets. I'm like, wait, is that a real tweet or is that
that's why you do Internet Wayback Machine if you're going to be serious about your receipts.
Right. So we'll pull up the next link here.
Or other archive sites.
Yeah.
You need to have some way of verifying.
And this is the reason here. This is the next link in the thread. Clint, the following day says, well, I was a fool to try and be nice and reasonable. I'm off Twitter for a while. And he quote tweets Sleestacks, but the tweet is unavailable. I'm assuming because it's been deleted.
No, I can see it. I can see it.
I can't see it.
I can't see it.
I had to click on it, then it clicked me over to Sleestack, then I came back.
Well, see, I do have a Sleestack tweet, but the original tweet in that thread is removed. That's the next.
What I'm showing here is I no longer even argue with War Campaign.
Right. That's the next link. That's the next link that I have. But if you scroll up to the top of that thread, the initial tweet is deleted.
Yeah.
And I think
that one.
I think that's the tweet that. Oh no, that's Comic Book Hut. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't see it on the other one. All right, so this is the original tweet.
I can't see it either though. That's weird.
And also, Pocket Jacks. Pocket Jacks gets in here throwing some more trash on the fire.
On which link?
So you go back to the. So you go to the.
Wait, we got some breaking news, Larry.
Comic Book Hut literally just blocked me.
He also blocked me.
Oh, come on, you little bitch.
I actually followed him while I was on the stream.
Yeah, me too.
It's Comic Book Hut.
Are you watching this show?
It did just tick down by a viewer. It did just tick down by a viewer.
What are you trying to hide? Are you talking about your girlfriend getting railed by some big black dude in there? You don't want to come on, you little fuck. Go drink your soy latte somewhere else and unblock me, you bitch.
Good luck. You're welcome, guys. I'm glad I can help your Twitter timelines.
So in the tweet that Sleestack quote tweet, it's like, I no longer even argue with War Campaign if I can help it.
Right.
I hate dog piles. I just blah blah blah.
Right. But Pocket Jacks is up in there too.
Yeah, Pocket Jacks said before this is, don't look now, but people disagreeing does not a troll army make. And that was the comment that Comic Book Hut had before there, but that he was a little B word and didn't want to.
Oh, you can say bitch on this show if you want to. We don't mind.
Okay, you checked the not for kids box.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I actually went into my account and told YouTube that nothing on my account was for kids.
Yeah,
ever.
So he's being a little bitch there.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, he's a sour cat. He's got a new name for Sweet Cast. He says, Sour Cast, nobody is censoring you. The people are asking you for your opinion on the war campaign. What do you think? And that tweet goes back to like a Rumble Terrier tweet. And we're not even going to get into that
guy. So I noticed like Pocket Jacks, Sleestack, Rumble Terrier, they're all involved in actively taking a situation that the two people who started it and they were like, and the two people who started it were like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
They decided to make it worse.
Right.
And it tagged off of Comic Book Hut, who also decided to make it worse.
Right. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. We are 3 days away from this happening when it is reasonably okay for it to still be on people's brains. But we are 3 days out from this happening, and already the entire cast of characters has shifted. And this is how YouTube drama actually escalates and exploits itself. Because the people that are initially involved become pawns.
Like if you were to watch the kill stream, this is a very typical scenario to things that get covered on the kill stream.
Yeah, I very much watch the kill stream.
Well, I mean, I could tell because of the way you're branding yourself here.
What do you mean?
With the Church of Failure.
Oh no, that actually that's some deep lore. The chat's heard this story a few times, but I don't mind telling it again. The deep lore on that is I actually about a year and a half ago, before the Kumite lost his fucking mind, I used to watch that in the morning and the kill stream in the evening, and that was kind of my entertainment for the day.
Yeah. And I think that's actually how I started following you initially before we started doing this show.
And because of that, I got involved with the Kumite's chat and everything when I was on a break at work or whatever, and Tonka had been going off for about 10 minutes about buildings having Twitter account and how fucking stupid that was, right? So I was just like, I'm gonna troll this motherfucker a little bit. And I made a Twitter account based on a building that was the channel name of Failure Terminated. And then that just kind of blew up a little bit because of my interactions with the Kumite and the kill stream and all that shit. And I just never changed it, even after the Kumite fell apart. Me and Failure are still cool. But that's the deep lore.
But I'm going to have to pull up my Chrome now to look at some of this trash.
Yeah.
Because Comic Book Hut was a little bitch.
Wait. I'm going to have my friend, not Ayrton, go to Comic Book Hut's account.
You should tag him and let him know that he needs to answer for why he's blocking everyone that's following him from the stream. We'll have him on. We'll talk about it. I'll even send him a Discord invite if he unblocked me and DM'd me on fucking Twitter, you bitch. Sorry. That was unbecoming of me. I promise I won't do that if you actually come on. You fucking bitch. Oh. But
that's fantastic.
Let's continue.
Now I want to try and find.
Go ahead.
What he tweet? I'm gonna have
incognito.
My try and find what he was tweeting that was being responded to.
So one of the ones is, this is how Pro acts when he's talking about Petersen Mehta saying, if you're interested in making your own books from home and you don't have a very high quality, don't have very high quantities, generally 500 plus, that need to get done each month, I recommend blah blah blah, this other YouTube channel. So I'm not entirely sure the context of this, because Comic Book Hut has not been acting like a good person in this whole little.
His response is, this is how a pro acts, and then Petersen Mehta, he was reacting to Petersen Mehta talking about that and linking. So he's jumping in on this after somebody came on a stream with Petersen Mehta and made fun of him. And then it keeps going, because you see that's November the 18th that he made that response. So we're a full 5 days, almost a full work week out, and HUD is still going on about this live stream that happened with
Speaking of 5 days out, his next one is 5 days to find this tweet. Hashtag Comicsgate lies and acts and talks like hashtag supervillains, but talk like supervillains, but act like heroic figures.
Right.
When Sweet Cat said, "I don't like the penis memes. It's immature and counterproductive."
Right.
I
Because
agree with Clint there.
yeah, that was I do, but the thing is that was him talking about war campaign and whatnot. I'm not a big fan of putting penises on people and dogpiling them, but I'm also not your fucking father. You do what you want to do. If it bothers me, I can mute the conversation. I can mute you for a couple of days and still be cool with you afterward, just because I don't want to see a dick on my feed. I don't have to be a little bitch about it.
And
But
Matt C's the one who finds the tweet for him. He doesn't even find the tweet himself, by the way.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
And Matt C also has a campaign out. I think it's kind of cool that he's doing something featuring like ancient Roman setting and stuff. It's not my jam, but I think that's kind of cool that he's doing that. But yeah, then Comic Book Head goes, but he still goes onto their streams. They speak out. They speak out by name, the artists and customers being harassed. Nope. Has he said anything about the attack on Mike Miller's channel and hurting new artists trying to get their work out there? No.
Yeah,
I'll
pull that up
in
the chat here.
So, this is a guy who's like that guy at the meeting when you're in the office who's bringing up all sorts of problems that may or may not exist, or problems that other people are handling because he wants to sound like he's doing something at the meeting.
Yeah.
That's the way Comic Book Cut's acting here. He's that guy.
Yeah, holy shit. Yeah, this guy's a fucking twat. Just scrolling through, having my friend scroll through his timeline. Holy shit!
And
hold on, there's where'd it go? So Clint posted a photo of him at the shooting range with some of his guns out, said going shooting on the 16th, and he was like, it seems hashtag Comicsgate likes to show off their weapons when they get mad. I hope there aren't any innocent mailboxes in his neighborhood. Quick, duck, somebody is sour.
Yeah, I like the whole mail.
Or he's just going fucking shooting,
Or the whole mailbox reference is trying to drag Tug into that,
right?
Too.
And again,
So,
there's plenty of ways to look at the Tug situation. If you look up on Kiwi Farms, like you referenced earlier, there is a whole theory that Tug went out and destroyed his own mailbox to blame someone else. I mean, that is 100% what some people actually think. Personally, if he did, that's kind of silly.
My personal opinion is Tug lives in the rural South. Their kids
People
who
knock
drive
down mailboxes all the time down here. I was one of those kids.
That is entirely my theory, and Tug tends to be a little hyperbolic in his self-promotion.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, he's got like 100-something fucking thousand subscribers. He's doing something right.
I mean, that's worked out for him so far.
So, but anyway, no, that's like you referenced just now, Ayrton, and like you said, Larry. This doesn't let up.
He's wanting to get a bigger dog barking in here.
Right. So the next tweet he pulls up seems another Comicsgate creator can't take any kind of criticism. This coming from the motherfucker that has blocked all three of us. Two of us tonight.
even better, one of these people like said, I don't know who this guy is. I'll check him out later. Well, guess I'm not doing that.
This son of a bitch is what? Oh my god. This was not planned, ladies and gentlemen. That was not part of this initial show layout. Like, I was coming on to talk about how stupid some of this shit was. But it apparently has turned into we have a hypocrite calling people we have a hypocrite calling people hypocrites.
And then he goes after him for saying he's leaving Twitter for now.
Yeah.
Questions on hashtag war campaign remain. This is not the big video, but enjoy anyway.
Not the big video. There's another one coming.
Uh-oh. Watch out.
Now, I do want to point out.
I'm curious now about his YouTube channel. He's got 457 subscribers.
Yep. Yeah, but he pulls a lot better numbers than I do. Like, I gotta say, he pulls a lot better numbers than I do, which is a goddamn crying shame.
So his week in review about his fight with Sweetcast that did 321. One of his things attacking him did 456 views. Like, both of which did better views than a video about Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda's adorable.
Baby Yoda
We all love Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda's the best.
It's like he's like sickeningly adorable though.
And he's attacking the world-class BSers as scam artists. So basically, this guy's taking the take of, I'm going to be counter the guys who are trying to be counter to the mainstream comics culture.
I'm going to be counter culture. Isn't that just the mainstream? No, they don't like me either.
And he's like trying to promote Punchline on his comic, and I'm like, bruh, you don't want to be this negative and also promote.
No, you don't want to be the guy that everyone like. It works to be the guy that everyone hates as a marketing strategy. It doesn't work to be the guy that everyone hates to promote other people.
Yeah,
right.
That's a big oopsie doopsie.
There's a difference between like putting on like an internet character and then actually being a dickhead, right?
So, I don't know. I wonder, did he blockchain me or just block you guys because you followed Ethan Van Sciver?
Well, no, I think he blocked us because we followed him, and then like
yeah.
Novel Bro in the chat,
so-
Baby Yoda save Star Wars. But
By the way, my guitar is currently the one who is checking out this guy's Twitter account. So go follow at Ayrton's Guitar.
Oh, okay. Is that just the Not Ayrton account?
I changed the name on it.
I was just making sure I didn't have to go follow another Not Ayrton
account. No. It's
I'm
at Ayrton's Guitar.
I'm currently waiting for Dame Pesos to let me know who of his very good friends I'm going to need to follow soon.
You know, I think I need to. If I had a way to reach out to Dame Pesos, I would offer to relinquish the Synagogue of Failure account.
Well, I had a way to reach Dame Pesos, but that's currently been nuked by Twitter.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he answered fucking Discord DMs,
Yeah.
I would let him into the Synagogue of Failure to schedule his communications.
Yeah.
I would let the Synagogue of Failure dictate for him, as it were. I'm not sure if they could. I'm not sure if they could translate. Da, 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 but we'll see. Because Dame Peso's laugh cures cancer.
It does. It heals. It's a healing laugh.
It's wonderful. It really is.
But the whole point of that, before we got off on the tangent of Comics Hut being a giant, I'll say it, a giant pussy, and not even
Peter and George had a little beef, not like a big beef.
No, they had a little
one.
A little friendly banter, a little back and forth, like, you should
like,
print your own comic.
It's like how Shatner and Mark Hamill go at each other sometimes.
Yeah, but you should print your own comics. And Pete's like, yeah, no, fuck you. And he's like, well, I guess fuck me, right? And that was the end of it. But here we are on November 23rd, and yesterday, Comic Hut put out another video on the Sweetcast Roundup, and on this video, he brings up the George and Peter beef yet again. Now, some people could call me a hypocrite for calling that out and saying, "Well, it's the 23rd, and you're making a video about it." Yes, but again, I'm not making a video about it in the sense of, "Oh, Peter fucked up," or "Oh, George is stupid." I'm making a video in the sense that this started off with two guys who have their own audience and have their own theories and their own user bases and consumer bases and everything. They have their own
And a bunch of
crowdfunding.
parasites decided to get involved to try to ride the chain, basically. So some people were being parasites. Well,
Absolutely. And if that's your gig, by all means, have at it. Have fun. That's what it's here for. If it wasn't there for you to do, you wouldn't be able to reply to Twitter threads. You know, if it wasn't your prerogative and your God-given right to do it, then you wouldn't be allowed to. It wouldn't be able. But if you're going to look at shit like this and say, "Oh, well, you know, this drama's ridiculous," and you're going to take it out against creators, make sure you understand just how convoluted this shit can get from the time it starts to the time that it reaches you. Because that's the thing that's the main focus point of what I actually wanted to talk about tonight, is that when people see these things, because it's easy in today's day and age to hear, "Oh, well, so and so came out as anti-consumer," or "so and so doxed a customer," and there's so much of this. Like, it literally, I had to start the show a half hour late tonight because of how entrenched this little rabbit hole went. What I was able to pull up and what I actually found is maybe a third of what's out there, and that's only in regards to threads. I mean, there are hundreds, thousands of comments and responses on this shit, and everybody takes it a little differently, and that's their prerogative. But for people who are looking at this from the outside looking in on November 22nd, there are people who might watch the Comic Book Hut's video and think that Petersen Mehta is an asshole. And that's not fair.
no.
Because
But also, at a certain point, if you're experienced with this stuff, it's like, oh, it's just this trash. And then you tune it out. Which is bad if you're a guy like Comic Book Hut who wants to promote someone's comic book.
Yeah.
Because, like, people just ignore his shit. Or, you know, people who didn't know his shit existed will then not be able to hear his shit promoting a comic book. Because he blockchains him like a little pussy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm checking my my Twitter live on air, and I hate to say, but he has not DM'd me to come on the show and defend his honor. So either no one messaged him, or he's just a little bitch.
Yeah. Well,
or he's wanting to splice this video up in a very unflattering way so he can make yet another video about it.
Oh God, I hope he does. I need subscribers. I would love the exposure of someone that Comic Book Hut hates.
Yep, it's definitely a blockchain on you, because I went and followed, or my guitar went and followed him and just got blocked. I was curious if it was EVS or if it was you, because my guitar account is not following EVS. So.
Also, you did mention the guitar on the channel, so he might be watching this stream.
Well,
he might have some validation.
Come on, Hut. You know you want to jump in.
I will send you a Discord invite right now. You can come on and make your piece. But until you do, you will forever be cemented as the first person in Comicsgate / anti-Comicsgate culture that I have on stream called a bitch and a little
Come
pussy.
on. Grease yourself up and get in the Greco-Roman wrestling ring with us. It'll be fun.
Fucking lube man down that storm drain and get in here, buddy.
I think they blocked the guitar because he's listening or
one of the sundry people in the amorphous blob of anti-Comicsgate is feeding it to him.
Could be. I mean, my guitar is only following like 3 people, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a
No,
it's a
Einbrecht
blockchain on
can see
church.
Einbrecht can see his stuff, and he follows me.
Oh, so you are listening. Come on, we'll go late, motherfucker.
Well, to be fair,
let's
Eric,
get in here. I still have a few pints left. I can go for another few. Let's go.
and before
Novel
Ayrton
bro wants to hear me go off. Come on, let's do this.
And before Ayrton drinks all of his beers and asks him to fight him in real life. And before Ayrton takes a full donga. He'll be drunk though. He won't be sober, so it'll be okay. Like,
exactly.
If you threaten to fight people in real life while you're sober, that's just terrible. If you're drunk, you can just take it back the next day. It's fine.
Well, no, you have to take it up as I believe Danielle posted in our Discord. You have to take it up with drunk me. Sober me doesn't remember anything that I actually said.
That is true. I got to check this out before. If there's a dislike on this channel or on this show, there's the single dislike, right? That's the.
Is there?
I got to find out. I'm going to the stream. I got to find out. Here we go. That is true. I gotta check. No dislike yet.
Okay.
So he might not be watching live.
Should you maybe put his name or something in there so maybe his Google alerts will go off? Make sure he sees this.
I don't know if I'm that low yet. Like I'm not quite that. Go ahead.
You're saying you don't want to do a video saying shocking reveal on Monday, baby?
No, because I don't want to. No, because I don't want to pay his girlfriend child support.
also, you don't want to get false flagged.
I don't want to pay his fucking girlfriend child support because if he he hits me with a blood test, I'm fucked, right?
How do you pay a sex doll child support though?
I mean, I put a baby in that sex doll, Aaron. Where the fuck even are we, Larry? Like,
I have no idea.
Well, we covered the topic we were planning to cover.
And then we had time left, so we just had to go off the rails. I understand. We're just a car crash in motion now.
Well, no, I mean, we things were happening live that we had to cover. We were committed.
That's true, and we didn't go through the videos. I think that really shortened the time frame down now. But I'm definitely not giving. I'm not giving that pussy. I'm not giving that pussy any views until he comes on this motherfucking show.
and to be fair, I completely lost in the thread of links you sent. I have no idea where we're.
Somehow I knew you weren't going to be able to handle that.
we took through all of them.
I got distracted. All right.
What do you mean? He had one too many pints. Oh, he says go full WWE promo chip. Do you need another beer before you go full promo? Like you can't do a voice.
No, not at all.
Okay, don't do a voice. No, don't do a voice. I mean, you can inflect on your own voice, but this is your promo. You're not a character. You are the character.
I mean, I am a character at this point.
Right.
Well,
I don't need you doing Macho Man.
I was gonna do a Macho Man voice. God damn it!
Fine, do the Macho Man voice.
Well, you threw it off. Give me a second to regain what I was going to say.
You got to reach in his pants and beat off for a little bit.
So you're gonna channel the Wendy's? You're gonna channel the spirit of the Wendy's?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, brother. Tell them how it is. I mean, they better be afraid. I'm coming to grind your bones into dust. I'm going to leave you laid out on the mat. I'm going to drop an elbow and a leg. I'm gonna headbutt you from the top rope. You don't even know what's coming. I'm gonna break you in so many different ways, brother. Oh yeah.
Sunday. I'm coming for you, and I'm gonna eat you up and spit you out.
Oh, that's terrible.
You're gonna block me.
Keep going.
You're gonna block me, motherfucker. I'll give you the chair. I'll give you the stool. I'll give you the ottoman. I'll give you the fucking oriental rug in my living room. Fuck you. I don't know. That's all.
You're gonna give him all your furniture? How is that a punishment?
Because it's cheap. Yes, I do suck at this. Shut up, Heinbach.
So, for anybody who is interested in what I just referenced, let me see here. Can I do that? That's a link to the Macho Man Wendy story, as recounted by James E. Cornett.
Where's that at?
Yeah. Actually, I thought I posted on the voice chat. The Wendy's is the Wendy's. I meant the chat window for the thing. And no, the Wendy's one isn't.
You can't post links. Put it in the live chat. I'll post it. Or put it in the Discord. I'll post it.
Actually, and also it was actually a Waffle House incident, not the Wendy's. Wendy's is somebody else. So I posted into general.
All right, I'll copy it and I'll post it.
So
the Chinese thing. The Chinese thing happened right when. Oh, I'm just gonna play it. We're not monetized.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's play that bad boy.
Yeah, we're not monetized. I don't give a shit. Copy link. There we go.
And this also features professional wrestling legend Dutch Mantel
so
as well.
Many of your career-defining moments have happened in Nashville, but it was the story of Randy Savage and the Waffle House.
Professional wrestling legend
I remember
James
this
E.
was
Cornette
when Nick was still running his own promotion. Opposite.
Say that again. The video is playing.
Saying this is, wrestling legend James E. Cornette and wrestling legend Dutch Mantel talking about the late wrestling legend Randy Macho Man Savage going savage in a Waffle House.
Oh, fantastic. We're starting at the very beginning. Everybody got it queued up and ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Mute when you start playing, but we're going to play in 3, 2, 1, now.
My favorite story, and it goes back to Nashville. So many of your career-defining moments have happened in Nashville, but it was the story of Randy Savage and the Waffle House. And I remember this was when Nick was still running his own promotion opposite to Jarrett. So we didn't get to see these matches, but people might not know. You had a long program with Randy Savage for the Mid-America title, and you guys had great matches. And Bobby Eaton was involved in that too, and had great matches at the time. But Randy,
it was good. Randy was starting, and I was kind of starting out too, and he was starting to develop his Macho Man gimmick. And I've often said that Randy Poffo morphed into Randy Savage, who then morphed into Macho Man. Because it didn't matter what time of day you saw Randy in those days, he was always full-blown Macho Man mode. You saw him at 6 o'clock in the morning. Oh, yeah. That's 6 o'clock. 12 o'clock at night. Oh, yeah. He was Macho Man 24 hours a day, and that's what he morphed into. But in the Waffle House story, it was late at kind of about 12 o'clock at night. We'd had the match. This was on a Wednesday night. We had the local matches in Nashville on Wednesday, and I had wrestled him that night, and he had went out with Rip Rogers to a local Waffle House, I think on Harding Place in Nashville, and they live close to there.
Pausing at a minute 30, I just want to comment on the fact that this motherfucker apparently just went full fucking bore all day, every day. Can you imagine this motherfucker at a Wendy's drive-thru, like Larry said earlier? Yeah, what can I get you? Oh, yeah, can I get a number 3? Can you upsize it to a large? I'm going to drop an elbow on you if you forget my sauce this time. Do you understand, brother? Oh, yeah. Gets up to the window, goes to pay him, just throws a shitload of Slim Jims and takes his food. All right, we're gonna start back at 1:30 in 3, 2, 1, go.
And he went in, and Savage was wanting to get something to eat, and he was always, kind of intense anyway. And he was trying to order, and a guy came through the door, and he worked there on first shift. He was a cook on first shift, I found out later. And he said, "Hey, everybody, I'm getting married." And they just stopped everything, and everybody said, "Congratulations," and they were laughing and applauding. Well, that stopped Randy from giving his order, and he was hungry, and he's irritable anyway. And so when he kind of died down, when you going to get married? I'm going to get married here. And finally, Randy couldn't leave it alone, and he says, and it kind of got quiet in there, and it was only Randy and Rip and the cook. There's the only ones in the Waffle House. And Randy says, "Who gives a fuck?" Oh, my God. Well, that's a direct challenge to the guy. And the guy was embarrassed, and now he's got to make a stand for his woman. So he says, "Well, you better give a fuck."
That was a witty riposte.
Yeah, you better give a fuck. Like, well, why would he even give a shit anyway? And Savage says, "Well, I don't." He says, "Well, you, by God, better." So the guy started walking toward Randy's in the booth, and Randy stood up. And Randy says, "We got a problem." Guy says, "I don't know, do we?" And all of a sudden, the fight just started breaking out. And they started swinging at each other, and they had a big jukebox there. I call it the Wurlitzer jukebox, and they wallowed in front of that for a while. And finally, the guy pulled a knife, and Randy hopped over the counter, and he grabbed a knife. And now they were in the seats like old Earl Flynn.
All right, I'm at 3:10. So apparently, the guy that Randy Savage gets into a fight with pulls a knife, and Randy Savage's first instinct is, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "Well, I'm in a Waffle House. I'll just take one of theirs."
And I'm imagining just like, the late night staff like mopping like the other side of the restaurant, just like thinking to themselves like, same shit, different day.
You know how has any of you seen the meme online where it was Carousel or Larry? If you're talking, buddy, you've been muted this whole time. If not, then I understand. But the meme.
No,
the meme.
I was being silent to let the video speak for itself.
Oh no. Well, fair use and everything. We have to comment every so often. So
yeah.
The meme that this is a Wendy's, sir, or this is a McDonald's drive-through or whatever.
My variation is I'll say this is Golden Corral.
Well, the thing is like, is that because is that because of this story right here? Like, did somebody tell Randy Savage, "Sir, this is a Waffle House"?
but what I like about how this video dovetails in nicely with the story is like, this is about how a simple misunderstanding escalates into something insane and stupid.
Well, we'll start the video back up at 3:10 in 3, 2, 1, now.
And Musketeer movie, and they were trying to sword fight each other. And somebody said, "Here come the cops." So the guy, the cook, he ran out the door. And Savage looked down. He didn't even have a knife. He had a butter knife in his hand, so he couldn't have cut the guy anyway. So finally, the cops come in. Everybody knew Savage in Nashville because, the TV, he was all over that TV. And a lot of people watched wrestling matches in those days. And even though if you weren't even a wrestling fan, if you come by a guy doing an interview and saying, oh yeah, well, you're going to stop and watch him because sounded like a crackhead years before crackheads were even invented. So, and the cops knew him, and they come in and said, "Okay, Randy, calm down." "No, man, no."
Crackheads were invented, guys.
Excited. They couldn't calm him down, and finally they said, "Well, we're gonna have to get some cuffs on you." And so they tried to get cuffs on him, and Savage starts fighting them, and they can't get it on him. And one pulls a mace out, tries to mace
and it gets better.
Misses. He hits the other cop in the eye. The other cop is laying around, and he drops his club. Now Savage picks up his club, and now Savage wasn't trying to hit the cop. The cop was trying to hit him. He just blocking, and finally the cop pulls back. Now more cop cars are coming. Now, if anybody's familiar with a Waffle House, it has floor-to-ceiling windows.
Yes.
You know, those full lengths. You can see everything inside there from outside. So here comes some more cops. Finally, here comes the lieutenant in. He knew Randy, and he called him by his name. He said, "Now, Randy, calm down." And no, man, you letting the other guy get away. He's the one. I was attacked, this, that, and the other. And they try to get him again. They can't get him. So finally, they said, "Bring the dog." So when they brought the canine in there, the canine unit, and he went after Savage. And you know the old saying, he ripped him a new asshole. Well, that was true in this case because that dog bit Randy on his butt cheek about 6 to 8 inches. And they finally got him handcuffed, got him in the car, and got him down to the station and locked him up. And I didn't see him till Saturday night in Chattanooga. And he said, "Look, this is what this dog can do." He showed me, he pulled his trunks down, a big bite mark on his ass. I said, "Well," but that's what happened. That was
what this dog did to me, man.
Oh, yeah. And I bet, and Randy never forgot anything. If anybody ever slighted Randy at all, he never forgot. And I bet, you know, to his dying day, I bet Randy sometimes sat up at night and saying, "I got to go kill that dog." Because he always wanted to get back at somebody. But, you know, Savage couldn't leave it alone because the big article came out about it. Well, shit, Randy couldn't let that shit go by. He called a writer down at the local paper, the Tennessean in Nashville, and he gave his version. Of course they're gonna carry it. And he came in there, but he was very complimentary of the Nashville cops and, you know, said it's a misunderstanding and they ran it. So, but nothing came of it. I think Nick Goulas gave a donation to the damn police fraternity order or whatever, and they had it reduced and thrown out or something. But he never went to court on it. I think he may have paid a small fine. That's it.
That used to be the way that everything got covered up and smoothed over. Was the promoter was so well known in town and so well connected, they'd give a donation to the appropriate offended party or do whatever, and guys would get away with shit, so it didn't hurt the business. And try that now, it'd be on the internet in 3 minutes anyway. But
but that's the way it worked, and in a lot of ways probably worked better because Randy didn't really hurt anybody. You know, he just got a big bite on the ass, you know, and no cops got hurt, nothing. But even though, you know, a lot of people fight cops all the time, hell, nothing happens to them either. So shit. I guess Randy was just a forerunner of all that.
That was
he would have been a TMZ.
Jesus fucking Christ. Am I coming through on the Discord?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. All
right. That's a nice way to tie up everything we were talking about how escalation can go too far.
Well, you just one step in the wrong direction, you know.
Yeah. And it was the step where he grabbed the butter knife.
I think it was a step where he started beating up cops that were trying to apprehend him. Jesus Christ. Got a bite on the ass from a giant dog. That was the most fantastic story I think I've ever heard in my life.
So, while James Cornette, he can be a little bit off-putting on Twitter, he's got all sorts of great stories about pro wrestling.
Oh, man. I grew up on that shit. I was around when Original Sting was, like, popular before he was...
oh, yeah?
Yeah, when he was NWO Wolfpack and shit. But back before he was a preacher. There was Surfer Sting, there was Crow Sting, there was Wolfpack Sting, there was Preacher Sting.
Mm-hmm.
Just roll out to the fucking... Like, he was the smartest wrestler in the world. He just rolled around with an aluminum baseball bat. Like, you catch a beef with him, he'll fuck you up. You literally believe people just left him alone to hang out in the rafters by himself. Because he was either insane or he was carrying a baseball bat. How sad is it that professional wrestling used to be a simpler time?
Right.
Well, yeah. And
nowadays,
there's a lot of
that
stuff.
shit fell off.
There's actually a lot of stuff Cornette talks about for promotions of wrestling that are applicable lessons to comics. So, like, they had a term called, I think it was hot spotting a territory, where you'd go completely off the rails with something bizarre and wild. A guy, like, using a fork as a foreign object, people bleeding out for real, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get a really big gate for that one set of shows, but then your gate goes down, and then it stays down lower than where it was when you started. And that's a lot like using Twitter drama and internet drama to promote your comic.
Yeah.
Or, hey, this new character in Spider-Man, who's called Spider-Man, he's like polygendered and this and that and the other thing. And you do things like that. You get a little bit of an internet cheap heat. You get a little bit of a reaction from people like us.
All right, real quick, to the panel and to the chat. How many years before there's a comic out called Spider Them or Spiders Are?
Spiders are. I think we're slowly seeing the pendulum move back the other way.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, honestly. I think the amount of SJW acceptance in comics has fallen. However, I don't think it will ever swing back full. And that's the nature of the pendulum. The pendulum loses momentum with each swing after it peaks, which comics peaked in the late 80s. So,
but like for me, the big thing that I saw as a pendulum swing moment was the new Vampirella series that Christopher Priest is doing.
I think Jonathan Hickman doing X-Men was a big swing as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not 100% on board with what Hickman's doing because it's kind of weird.
It is, but it's not politically correct either. So.
Right. So
I'm okay with that.
And I think that's when people are talking about, oh, well, and I'm saying this as somebody who's in the process of making a comic to go crowdfunded. It's like, even if we don't make our own companies and stuff, the fact that people paid $100-something thousand for Cyberfrog, $100-something thousand for both Jawbreakers, that's been taken notice of, and the comic book companies are making efforts to try to appeal more to that audience, while still keeping their core editorial agenda going forward.
I don't know. I might have to disagree with you guys. I think as far as besides Marvel, I'm still on the fence on DC, but I think they're going to keep pushing the agenda for the quote unquote larger books. You see, they're still trying to push Captain Marvel and.
They're not.
They've actually backed off a lot on Captain Marvel, if you pay attention.
Well, they're making Captain Marvel a supervillain now.
And they've made Captain Marvel look like a woman again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still skeptical about
I think
they're praising the Harley
we're gonna re-examine this
time.
We're gonna re-examine this issue after 2020. We're actually gonna look at it from what we saw through 2019, and we're going to look at it in the first quarter of 2020 and see where it's at.
That's a good idea.
So what I think you need to do
DC Comics is kind of a dumpster fire with some of their decisions.
Honestly, moving away from Rebirth was the worst thing they ever did after hiring Tom King.
Yeah, and also bringing in Bendis.
If you
read, that was also a terrible decision.
Honestly, I don't think it was. I don't think it was, but I don't think it was for all the wrong reasons. I think it pulled Marvel towards a greater common core because they lost one of their power players. I think it put Marvel in the limelight because Riri Williams is never going to be the same again. She's never going to be big because Bendis is off of it.
And what's funny is Eve Ewing actually has written some good stories with Riri Williams.
And also, what's also hilarious is that Bendis has outed himself as being a one-trick pony by creating a Riri Williams clone in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
He has outed himself as a one-trick pony, and people notice.
And Riri was basically the same trick he pulled with Miles Morales.
Well, the thing is he has a mixed-race daughter who he always self-writes in now as a married suit.
Yeah.
Well, I guess here to bring one last question: how long do you guys think before Church gets his drawing of feet from Rob Liefeld?
Oh yeah, that's a video coming up on the channel. I went on a very, very inebriated rant, Larry, about Rob Liefeld when he launched his crowdfund, or well, not when he launched, because I wasn't even streaming 6 years ago, but when he started to quote unquote fulfill his crowdfund campaign.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Rob Liefeld's crowdfund campaign?
You mean which crowdfunding campaign that he's currently backed up on fulfilling?
The first one.
Okay. But not any of the clones of the first one that he also set up crowdfunding campaigns for.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about those. I spent 2 hours making fun of the one.
Yeah, because he's actually done it on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter.
Oh, no, we did cover that. We did cover that.
Yeah, and then he did like a remaster for that. Also, is another one, I think. It's basically you do your crowdfunding and then you do your comic.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we just laughed at him because he finally launched it. But when he originally launched it, the idea was to make it available for free, basically to everyone, like to put out a free digital comic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to give a physical copy to all the backers and all that shit like that. Well, it's now turned into, I've printed a couple of con exclusive variants, and then I have the Indiegogo and the Kickstarter exclusive variant, and I'm finally fulfilling it 6 years too late, but I'm not putting it out free on digital. And I'm just like, wait a minute.
Now wait a minute, Rob.
But he
Rob, no.
Well, Rob blocked me on Twitter too. Yeah, I have a bad habit of getting blocked by people that I like to make fun of. Mark Waid hasn't blocked me to his benefit.
Like Megs Visaggio briefly unblocked me. I had nice, productive conversations with her for a bit, and then she blocked me again.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? After Thanksgiving, I've scheduled a completely, totally trash drunk stream, which basically means when I come into the stream, we're gonna have a nice, fun conversation for about 20-30 minutes with the chat, because it's gonna be an unlisted private stream. Mainly between the Discord and my Patreon, and we're going to speak for a little bit until I get entirely and utterly hammered, which is basically one drink beyond where I am now. But then I have to make a rant about Mark Waid and a rant about Hillary Clinton. And whoever else donates to the library crowdfund that I'm gonna put into the chat right now. Here we go. Fundraiser by Heath A. Wetler. Copy. We're gonna put that in the chat real quick before the show ends. We'll do one more shill for this before he closes it down.
Oh, did you guys catch the cool video I did with Thinking Critical about Tom King? Because we did mention him.
I did. I watched that. Do you wanna pull it up while we're in the air?
Yeah, that's what I was saying here. Oh.
You wanna talk about it with us since we have you here?
A little bit. So I recommend everybody watch this video where I basically explain how Tom King is using a new theory of literary analysis for all of his writing, which is called trauma theory. And trauma theory is about how trauma changes a person at a psychological level. But also metatextually, trauma stories are also about how a community experiences trauma and how that trauma affects the community in the stories they tell. And it's generally used by hacks like Tom King as a deconstruction device. So that's why, Mr. Miracle's life started out good, went terrible, never really came back. Same thing with Batman. Same thing with Wally West.
Hey, link that to me again. I'm not.
Give me a second.
Up too far.
Dude. That should be it.
I think you put it in the general, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I just didn't see it.
Well, let me double check to make sure I sent you the right link here. Sure.
I think it is.
Yeah, that's the right link.
All right, here we go. It's gonna start playing. I have to interact with it real quick to stop it. Oh,
yeah.
Nice. It must.
Wow, we had a chop.
Here we go. All right.
But Wes is
Bernie Sanders ad.
But Wes gets ads though. He's got some ads here.
Oh yeah, he does. Well, I skipped the first one, so I'm at 0-0 whenever you guys are ready. It's like 16 minutes. That'll probably close out the show with some commentary.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make my own personal statement before we watch this video. I've seen it, but as Tom King goes, I am not a fan. I don't like some of the things that he's done with Batman.
Or Wally West. Or Mr. Miracle.
I don't give a shit about those guys. Like, Batman and Green Lantern are all I care about in the DC universe. In the grand scheme of things, if you leave those guys alone and stop fucking talking about Hawkman, I'll be happy. Because while I like other characters and their good stories, I don't really have to like them. I don't have to give a shit about them. But when you fuck with Batman or you fuck with Green Lantern and you just piss all over the legacy of it and you make Batman a literal cuck, I'm not okay with that. Like, I've been following Batman for 30 goddamn years because my father was obsessed with him. I have a tattoo of a Tasmanian devil in a Batman costume because when my dad passed away, I had to honor his memory somehow, and Batman was involved with that. You do not make Batman a fucking cuckold.
Yeah.
And Tom King did that, and that's why I have a problem with it. That's why we don't cover Batman on the channel, folks. Because the current Batman is garbage, and I have to really, really think about a good Batman. Like you can read. Might be a story.
You could read better Batman stories, like ones done by Brian Edward Hill, for example, in Batman and the Outsiders.
Zack Snyder wrote better Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, for fuck's sake, the Court of Owls was actually decent. Sorry. I've had enough drinks to start getting angry. I just haven't finished the last drink to go full Super Saiyan and show my power.
Yeah. So just
go ahead.
So just give me whenever you pause it and want to ask questions about that, just like what I was saying here. If you want me to extrapolate more than what the video says.
Oh no, we will definitely pause it and talk about certain things. But we will start it at 00 in 3, 2, 1, go.
I mean, this whole thing was about, can Batman be broken? You can't break Batman by hurting him. He's been hurt in every way possible. You can't break Batman by killing a Robin because that happens to him every Friday. So how do you break Batman?
Welcome back to the channel. We've got Larry Bernard. He's an independent comic book writer. He's a contributor to Midnight's Edge. He's a contributor here to Comics Aficionados mini live streams. How are you doing today, Larry?
I'm doing great. It's a great morning here in sunny Florida, where we actually have decent weather because it's nice and cool finally.
Well, we had a tropical storm here that just rolled through, and looks like we're going to have some sun tomorrow, so that's nice. So, I've been talking about Tom King's Batman, it's Heroes in Crisis for, basically since I launched the channel. And I'm always pointing out kind of the same tropes. It's the pretentious writing, the inclusion of poetry and classic literature where it doesn't make sense and it just bogs down the story, jumping from plot to plot with no rhyme or reason, no explanation how you got here, basically not explaining anything in his stories. Things that are really easy to notice. Being a writer yourself, we've talked about this, in depth, offline, and you had identified something else that's affecting Tom King's writing, a different trope that's a little bit beyond anything I had been thinking of. Can you explain what
Sure.
you see in Tom King's writing? Maybe some places where our viewers may have seen it in a bigger medium,
Absolutely,
so they understand.
So we are all talking about in this space in a sort of counterculture way about how, there's a culture war going on in our media. And there's a lot of really deep thinking about it. So there's a type of literary theory called the trauma theory of literature. And there's a lot of really complicated stuff we could go on for a whole lot of time talking about, but I'll condense it down. That it gets into aspects of Freudian psychology that say that trauma fundamentally alters the psyche, and a traumatic event influences your psyche and disrupts rational thought process. A great example is the ending scene from the second Matrix movie, where the architect is talking to Neo and he says, "Even now, I see the synapses firing." It's the trauma of seeing Trinity die, of having love, of having it taken away, that fundamentally alters his psyche and changes him and forces him to make the irrational, heroic decision. So trauma theory of literature talks about how trauma changes how we think and also how trauma changes identity. So if you're a creative writer like a Tom King or a Brian Michael Bendis, or also you see this with how Luke Skywalker was written in The Last Jedi, this is a perfect tool if you want to construct a character, deconstruct a world, deconstruct a trope, and seem a lot smarter than you actually are about that. And trauma stories also ties in with intersectionality. So if you have a traumatic narrative about a person who is white, it's all about him being destroyed, how his world is completely destroyed and ruined, like Tom King's Batman through his whole sad sack march in Wally West. But if it's a person of color character, you get into a situation like Eric Killmonger from the Marvel movies. His fundamental tragic experience with the death of his father led him to become a brutal, horrible warrior and killer, but as an anti-villain. He became a brutal monster to try to right the wrongs of the world. And that's how intersectionality combines with literary trauma theory to create some of this trash we're seeing, basically.
Mm-hmm. So
that's how I envision Tom King's writing. It's garbage.
I'm pausing right at 4 minutes.
At about what minutes?
4 even. 4-0.
4 even?
Yeah.
All right.
One of the things you brought up there that I really, really took hold to was deconstructionism.
Yeah.
Do you feel like since the advent of like The Dark Knight Returns, The Watchmen, stories like that, even to a certain degree, something like a Crisis on Infinite Earths or a Secret Wars, a grim and gritty tale of a superhero where the end result is they might not win, kind of thing. But just the deconstruction of what the superhero started out as in 1937 with Action Comics number 1 of the Boy Scout that was faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and able to leap tall buildings in a single bound because the motherfucker actually couldn't fly. I want people to understand that. There was like Super Leap Superman, there was like Hover Superman, and there was Full On Flight Superman. Over the time, Superman has become more powerful than a goddamn god. But anyway, do you think that deconstructionism, having affected comics since the 80s, has become so prevalent that it is the new mainstream, like the dirtier and grittier, the better kind of thing when it comes to telling a comic book story?
Well, I mean, look at how well Watchmen did. Look at how well The Dark Knight Returns did. Everybody wants to go back to that well because they assume that's the source of the well's strength.
Well, it's catching lightning in a bottle. It's like making several more Star Wars movies, thinking that they're going to capture the fan base that the original trilogy did because it was different and it had more heart.
Well, they could, but the Disney plan wasn't going to allow for that.
No, I don't think so. Like, I have a complete theory on that, and I'll say one thing on it, and then we'll get back into the general topic. But I think the original Star Wars movie had more heart than any of its predecessors, and I think that's why it captured the imaginations of so many people at this time. It was innovative for its time. Everything that came after it was kind of a lazy attempt to recapture that magic. There was no real soul in any predecessor to the Star Wars trilogy that started it all. But that's just my take on that. And I would love to talk Star Wars in the future, but
we can have that to our to-do list. But basically, the whole thing with deconstruction, it's postmodernism, and postmodern literature is a form of literature that uses things like metafiction. So things are meta. So like where the comic book character is having an experience that ties into the writer, and it also ties into your experience as the reader. It deals with unreliable narrators when you don't know what's actually going on because the character isn't telling it to you honestly. And, intertextuality where the text itself interacts with other texts and it, creates a broader story structure based around that. The problem is those are all very complicated things. That's a Swiss watch. And what I like about a lot of the Comicsgate stories that have come out is they're not trying to tell Swiss watch stories. The more successful ones that I've read and that, I'm looking forward to reading more of again is they tell very basic stories. They don't try to overcomplicate things. Because you don't want to open the door and say, here's the really complicated story right off the bat.
Well, and I'll comment on that, like with Marvel Comics especially. I actually started reading mainstream comics again back in 2015. And I associate that with the birth of my first daughter because during the pregnancy with her, Free Comic Book Day happened and they released Secret Wars #0 for the 2015 saga. And as anybody who's listened to the show more than 3 episodes statistically already knows, that is my favorite comic book event to have ever happened because of the way they orchestrated it. Not because of the way it happened necessarily, but I feel like the gimmick that was Secret Wars 2015 with the basic full stop of Marvel Comics for 12 months, essentially, and 252 different comics coming out in that time frame under a single banner as the printing presses slowly started back up with actual Marvel Comics line books that were happening before and were going to lead into the all new, all different Marvel. Like, I think that was something that was daring yet innovative and was tested with Age of Apocalypse. But line wide, it was a fucking brave and bold move, and I give kudos for that shit. Like, even if it didn't work the way they wanted it to, I think the fact that they had the cojones to be like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of balls to cancel a Wolverine comic book that has like 100,000 monthly subscribers, right?
Right. No, it's you want to get your gravy train in, you want to keep the gravy running.
Right. Well, let's keep this video going. It's 4 minutes even. You guys ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Oh no, wrong thing. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, the portrait he uses, I am sure if I broke down all the poems and I did like a literature review, you would find these poems listed in Literary Theory of Trauma as poems discussing trauma or being evocative of trauma or being connected to how the emotions of trauma are played out in literature.
So you're saying that he read some psychology books and maybe a page or an essay or two on trauma theory and literature, and is trying to apply it to Batman.
I'm thinking he's applied that not just to Batman. He applied it to Mr. Miracle. He applied it to Wally West. Mm-hmm. He's going to be applying it in the New Gods movie, I am sure.
Well, with the New Gods, it makes more sense because Apocalypse, Fourth World is essentially hell. It's trauma right, is the experience there, but you think that he's misusing it?
Well, I think it's something that should be used subtly. So I saw Ford versus Ferrari recently. So the narrative idea of trauma theory was used there effectively. So Carroll Shelby won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but shortly after that, he had a heart condition discovered that prevented him from being a racer. So it was that anxiety in the heart, that anxiety you feel when you're suffering from a heart condition, that impacted how he made decisions and how those decisions ultimately allowed him to break through the status quo and achieve victory with Ford's team at Le Mans. So that's how you use trauma theory more appropriately. Not
and how would you say like King is using it specifically? In Batman, because that's the run that's about to come down. That's what we've been covering it here pretty hard for the last couple weeks.
So did you ever watch The Prestige? They have an opening that talks about the 3 phases of a magic trick. You show somebody ordinary, you do something extraordinary, but that's not the trick. The trick is bringing it back. And Tom King uses these complex, I'm a really deep thinker, literary theoretical tricks to do the second stage, but he never does the third. He never sticks the landing in the third. Batman, woe is me, my parents are dead, I've been suicidal, so I'm going to foolishly throw myself into a marriage, and then she leaves me, and then I'm even more depressed, and then I metaphorically fight my father so I can metaphorically marry my mother, and you're not going to see Bruce Wayne come out of that as a new psychological person. Because Tom King doesn't have a ending of where this traumatic experience has made Bruce a different person that will fundamentally change the character. Batman's driven by my parents are dead. So this story structure that Tom King built over quote unquote 100 issues should have been to set a new core status quo, a new drive.
He really means 85, ladies
and he's not done that.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things, as you read it along, he just does new things to the character to break him down, but he's never put 1 ounce of any.
All right, I'll pause the video. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's more like 85, ladies and gentlemen. That's when he got tossed off the book, I believe.
Right. But he's still telling his story in like his little side Batman and Catwoman thing. So he gets his 100 issues. But that's why I said quote unquote.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't think. Why is my shit? Okay, there it is. I don't think that he should have stuck on this book as long as he has. Like, the idea of Batman getting married has vehemently been rejected by comic fans for decades. Batman is a tragic character. He doesn't need trauma theory to tell that story. Like, every time they reboot his origin story, you get the idea that he's a traumatic character from the fact that his entire moral structure stems from the fact that it. Go ahead.
You're thinking like in a classic Greek sense, where you see the trauma on the stage, and so you experience it because you're watching the trauma. This story is about taking the trauma of Batman and affecting how you see the whole world through Batman.
Well, the thing is about that, like, if you have to use the Oedipus meme in that, like, because that's what you're describing.
Well, no, I mean, it's a classic Freudian, I want to kill my father and marry my mother.
That's Oedipus. That's not Freudian. Freudian is just admitting to what sick shit you want to do.
Oedipus didn't want to marry his mother. He just happened to marry his mother. And as soon as he realized he did, he ripped out his eyes.
Well,
Freud's the one who said, no, men want to marry their mother and kill their father. Freud took it in a different direction.
Well, I mean, Freud did a lot of opium, too.
And he's
And
a bit of
also-
a quack.
And also vitamin cocaine. Let's not forget vitamin cocaine.
Oh,
Vitamin cocaine is essential to not get the scurvy, son.
But the point is that because of Batman's trauma and how it was done through this story, he like cold cocks a Robin. Like you change how he relates to people. Alfred dies thinking that Bruce is a little bitch who won't save him. Even though, of course, we all know Alfred's gonna come back alive.
Alfred
later.
has to fucking come back to life. That's bullshit.
Yeah. So that's more. You're thinking like what the classical literary sense of trauma would be like. No, the trauma is how you're seeing how Batman, being this broken, misshapen mess, hurts everybody else around him, and changes how they make decisions about their lives.
Well, I actually kind of get that, but to the way that Tom King's written it, he's just done it badly. Like, he has a good idea, he's just poorly executed.
But the problem is there's no ending for Tom King's story. There's no sticking the landing.
Well, I think
Like,
that
you
was
know-
kind of on purpose, because back in the day, DC would put up with a problematic writer because they couldn't find anybody to finish his story, and the fans kept buying the book. Like, I think Tom King knew that he was going to get pulled, and
No.
they just passive aggressively said, "Well, we'll just let you tell your Batman Catwoman story, but somebody else is going to write Batman proper."
Yeah, but the thing is, you look at how he did his thing with Wally West, Heroes in Crisis. How he did the Mr. Miracle.
I don't read Wally West comic books because Wally West is a false redheaded cuck. I read Barry Allen Flash because that's the true Flash. Thank you.
But basically, Tom King in all these stories, he doesn't end it. He just leaves the characters horrible, broken messes that need a strong woman to get through their day.
So you're telling me that he's Brian Michael Bendis on estrogen pills?
Well, I'm just saying, Tom King should maybe consult his physician about the low T that your boy Zach called him out about.
You're telling me that Greg Doucette is Tom King in secret, and that's where he gets his money.
No. But, Tom also gets some writing points from Brian because, nothing I like in a visual art medium more than text that obfuscates the pictures so I can't see them.
Absolutely. You guys queued up at 7:21.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Energy or strength and actually building him back up. And that's the flaw with this series, and that's why people are tired of it and have been tired of it for a year and a half, because you can only take so much of the breaking down of the character or the obstacles that he doesn't scale, and he just fails before it's like, why am I reading this anymore?
Yeah. And then you look at what Brian Edward Hill's doing with Bruce as a character. You see Bruce as a competent CEO of an organization, of a superhero team. He's like the good family organization company boss. And he's mentoring and treating people in both a boss role and a family role. That's a more interesting take on Batman than, woe is me, my parents are dead, so I need to punch this guy who has fish-based crimes.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you bring up.
Oh no,
With
it's
no
an
choice
ad.
but to move back home after college.
Bernie Sanders, man.
He thought he'd be a little more.
Brian Hill, and you brought up Killmonger already. I read his miniseries. It's one of my favorite stories of the past 2 years. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. But in there, you kind of see what you're talking about, because he's kind of abandoned at the beginning, and he overcomes. He gets his life together.
Wait, like the people in the live stream are getting a better
sucked
ad.
into the world of crime. Has something very
That's
traumatic.
weird.
Loses his.
Hold on. What'd you say?
The people who are watching it. The people who are watching live got better ads than I did.
Oh yeah. That's because I pay better. I pay extra for good ads.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I clicked something and the video went away. God damn it.
Well, first off, what what actually brought you on to talk about Tom King on the show? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I've gone on a couple of his streams, and I mentioned this as the thing to explain Tom King. So, like, we all talk about the quote-unquote SJW or various and sundry things. And there's a lot of interesting ideas they have involved. Things like intersectional feminism, which is about how different minority groups all have different problems with the system and discrimination, how those come together make it greater than the sum of their parts.
Now, have you talked about how the particular quid pro quo of that discrimination has shifted one space to the left in every sense of the word?
Well, the reason I wanted to mention that, not get too far off topic, is this also connects to trauma because the experience of the people of color is viewed within the trauma theory of literature as inherently traumatic.
Larry,
so whenever you see...
I have to interrupt you real quick and ask, have you never seen our show? Getting completely off topic is entirely the point.
Well, I mean, that's fair. That is a fair point. So whenever you hear people complain that the black character has no emotion, no emotional depth, it's because it's about the white character experiencing the trauma and having his world turned upside down. So you have the black character being strong, so you're trying to communicate to the white audience a sense of empathy. So trauma theory, like Spawn.
Okay.
So trauma theory uses intersectionality to also tell a political narrative about how you should view women and minorities.
Well,
and how the white
if we're keeping Spawn for a placeholder here, you should view women as sex objects because Todd McFarlane definitely had no problems with that. He just had to make sure that his main character was a black man, but an unidentifiably racially black man because he didn't want his story being used to virtue signal as race.
Right.
Are we not supposed to view women like that?
No.
You're in Michigan, Eric, and it's okay, but anywhere else, no.
Yeah.
All right.
But so the fact that
joke.
I want to kind of
that's a joke.
Yeah.
I just have to clarify that's a joke.
Don't ban us, Susan.
Don't ban us, Susan.
Pay Jim his fucking money. Sorry.
Exactly. Well, no, Jim finally got his money.
Okay.
The weather reporting finally worked.
Well, he's still going to do it, I heard.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to hear about the weather,
right?
Of course.
So the thing is, I was wanting to kind of like say, there's all these things that are kind of shallow analyses, but if you go deeper into how these different ideas work, you see a lot more nuances in how stylistically they're communicating a message effectively at a deep subtextual level, but they're not communicating their intended message very effectively at a textual level.
Okay. I mean, that sounds... I mean, not to be rude, but from a consumer standpoint, that sounds like something that goes over the average consumer's head.
Right, but to quote noted film critic and serial killer Mr. Plinkett, you may not have noticed it, but your brain did.
All right, you got me there.
You win.
What I'm getting at, though, is, like, do you think that some of these creators kind of, not to call anyone a fart huffer, but...
I'm sure they have an intern who was taking these classes and they thought that was really compelling and interesting. And they tried to incorporate some of these ideas their intern told them about.
Okay.
That's my gut instinct.
Well, I feel like
sounds about
people...
right.
Well, here's my main problem, right?
Mm.
I'm 33 years old.
Right.
I've been reading comics for probably 27 of those years easily.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having the Square X-Men animated series comics.
Mm-hmm.
Made of cardboard, so you couldn't fuck them up as easily. And they had no naughty words in them, and they weren't written by Chris Claremont because that would have been terrible. But in that time frame, I have never, in my complete imagination, thought that I would have to adhere to a particular political bias or a particular ideology or understand some kind of deep literary theory to enjoy something that originally
Oh
started
no
the
no! Oh no
format
no!
being called
Oh
a
no!
funny book.
This isn't for you to enjoy it. This is for you to understand what people who are ruining comic books are doing and why.
Well, I understand that, but Tom King actually wrote this and published this. And from what I'm gathering so far, I completely agree with the idea that he picked up a few Wikipedia websites and said, you know what, I'm going to use these ideas to write a comic book. And I'm going to use Batman as my cloak.
Yep.
And it
I'm going
angers
to break
me.
Wally
Like,
West, who the comic book companies labeled as the symbol of hope, and I'm going to destroy hope and make hope into a mass murderer for no reason.
well, Ethan Van Sciver, let's be fair. Ethan Van Sciver laid the groundwork for him to be a symbol of hope. And that was one of the things Ethan did before he was so violently excommunicated from the comic community.
But yeah, so the whole point is, you can say SJWs, and eventually people say, oh, well, you're just saying talking points. But if you learn more details about some of the moving parts about this thing, you can have an interesting intellectual conversation with these people, and maybe we could actually convince somebody of things on the internet. I mean, it's rare, but it does happen. It does happen every so often.
Well, you don't have to convince the person you're trying to convince. The end goal, and don't fucking believe anybody that tells you otherwise. The end goal is to convince their followers.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, because somebody like fucking Comic Book Hut isn't going to come on the show and have a debate with us.
No.
Shots fired. Well, I mean, I've left my DMs open. He doesn't even have to follow me to DM me, and he hasn't because he's a total utter bitch. But
and also, I mentioned the ads we ran into, and Wes said, I didn't put any ads on the beginning of this video, so YouTube added those ads for their convenience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, of course.
Well, we're at 8:37, so let's finish this up. 3, 2, 1.
Mentor thinks he's in love with this woman. That doesn't work out. She turns on him, but in the end, he comes out an elevated character and essentially a supervillain because he's taken all that trauma and elevated himself through it.
Exactly.
Super incel.
But also, you could you could also view that as a dark path of the trauma theory.
Absolutely,
whereas Killmonger could have went out that path and said, betrayed by these criminals, maybe I need to build a better world. But that was definitely not the character Brian Hill was writing. He definitely was writing Killmonger not as an anti-villain, but as a straight-up villain.
Well, because it's a prequel to the movie. So his end state was predetermined before he started the series.
Well, actually, Brian said it was more tied in, so it would be something that would be evocative of the movie, but also would tie into what was going on with the character at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is the end state was he was always going to have to be a villain, but he did it effectively. That he put the failures in there. He affected the character, but he came out a new, more competent character that's essentially really dangerous now because he's got a motivation and he's lived through these things and he's overcome them. Whereas Batman overcomes nothing.
Yeah. And it's so shamelessly basic of a Freudian trope. I have to fight my father and kill him, which is what's going to happen at the end of the 85 issue run. I can be happy and marry my mother. And that's what Catwoman is in his writing. It's also what he did with Scott Free. He didn't do that with Wally West because Wally West didn't have a wife in the current continuity. They've done so many terrible things to Flash continuity, I've lost track.
Well, the worst thing was in the end of Flash Wars. Flash Wars is all about Wally West on a mission. He said, "Screw it! I don't care what happens. I'm going to go find my wife and children. I'm saving them. They're stuck in the Speed Force." He goes in there and he just fails.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I remember when I finished that story, I was like, why did I read this? Like, he's a complete failure. Now he has to go off to Sanctuary because he's mentally broken. And then
he becomes a serial killer.
And King, finished the character off.
I'm pausing at 11:05.
Where about?
11:05.
Okay.
Can I just say, based on that last 15 seconds, I'm so glad that I never read this Marvel run.
Yeah. Wouldn't that make you angry,
not
though?
Marvel. The DC Flash run.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that have made you angry if, you like this character? It's like, oh, he's a symbol of hope. And nope, we're taking away his wife and kids. He fails. He goes off to the mental asylum, and then he murders a bunch of people for no reason. And then he covers up the murder.
Well, isn't he in forensics like his uncle?
What was that?
Isn't he in forensics?
Yeah, no, that's the other thing. He covers up the murder, as opposed to also he murdered them because they introduced a new problem with their powers that if he doesn't control his emotions, his powers explode.
Because that makes sense.
Because that's supposed to be a metaphor about post-traumatic stress disorder, which is so deep that they've been talking about it in comics since the 70s.
Now, wait a minute, Tom King, no! Tom King, no! Sorry. I had to channel
whenever you see... but whenever you see somebody with these trauma themes in comics and they're focusing on PTSD, they're using trauma theory of literature stories.
Can I just say that whoever drew this panel right here really did Wonder Woman a tremendous disservice with that Bride of Frankenstein hairdo.
Yeah.
And they can't draw a cape for fucking shit.
Yeah. That was poor quality.
It's like Rob Liefeld and his feet.
That motherfucker owes me some motherfucking commission feet drawings. I will pay for them. You gotta DM me, you fucking cuck. I want your feet drawn on paper. You asked for this, Larry.
I did.
Well, you only have 5 more minutes of it left, according to the video. So we'll start back at 11:05 in 3, 2, 1.
The symbol of hope destroyed forever. Essentially, I don't care what Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth do. There's no bringing him back from that. Not anytime soon.
No.
They would have to resurrect the character and be like, "That's never happened to you. You don't remember it." You know what I mean?
Let's face it. The way DC's being managed right now, they're going to probably be doing another reboot event in a year or two. They're going to be hitting the hard reboot button in a year or two. They have to.
Yes, because You're the Villain and Justice Doom War are all leading into this next event that's going to happen during the summer, I believe, of 2020, which is going to lead into 5G, which is the new, diverse, younger version of the heroes that are replacing the old status quo, and they're going to have to reboot.
Yeah.
Because it's going to fail so bad.
And also...
Pausing at 11:54.
Okay.
I'm triggered by this. When I watched it the first time, I was smoking the first cigarette of the day, and I had just woken up, and I was like, okay, this is fine. But watching it right now, after a couple of liquor drinks in the end of the evening, I'm just I'm sitting here and I'm going, wait a minute. We're talking about DC rebooting after Rebirth just launched in what? 2016, early 2017.
Yep. With what DC management is doing, in a year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if they announce a new 52.
Well, here's the thing: they're launching this 5G shit where they're going to be pushing younger versions of the heroes that we're familiar with, like Black
For a
Batman.
couple months.
And, well, hear me out. They're going to be pushing all that shit, but then they're going to also issue a $7.99
Black Label for things.
Yeah, for the characters that we actually like.
And I suspect all the Black Labels and the regular labels are going to be part of the same event that ties into 5G.
So you're going to have to buy all of it.
Of course.
How else are they going to make money?
Yeah.
They're not going to. And they're never going to stay on with AT&T. AT&T is going to sell them. And you know who I think is going to fucking buy it? Who do you think is going to offer a bid for DC right now in the current market?
Well, it won't be Disney.
You don't think so?
No, because that would be an antitrust problem, number one, and number two, the DC licenses give them.
I would have agreed with you 20 years ago, but with IDW, Dark Horse, not Wildstorm, Zenoscope, fucking all.
It's the movies.
It's
the movies and TV shows.
No.
It's the movies and TV shows, though.
I don't know.
I mean, I offered them $6.78 for DC, so
maybe you'll get it. But I
think. But the thing is that they're the flagship comic book movie. The first major competitor is finally getting on the market. Next year, we're going to get Bloodshot, starring Vin Diesel. And they're going to start rolling out the Valiant movie.
I heard about that, and we actually covered it on a show in a segment. And I'm pissed off that Jason David Frank isn't Bloodshot in this movie.
Yeah,
because he played Bloodshot in the Made for YouTube movie and was actually decent.
Yeah, but Vin Diesel sells in China. So that's why Vin Diesel in the movie. Even though China doesn't actually help that much with movies.
Not anymore, apparently, according to Joker.
But the bottom line is, Superman sells well. Joker sells well. The DC Comics company might not exist anymore, but they'll just outsource the comics to somebody else.
Like
that's more likely.
With IDW lately?
Kind of like that.
And Dark Horse, because Dark Horse has been releasing Disney movie princess books.
Yep. But I mean, realistically,
one day we're going to cover Little Mermaid #1 by Dark Horse that just came out a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, lovely.
But realistically, DC will sell out at some point in time in Marvel too. Licenses for people to do the major characters. There'll be a brand manager who makes sure all the licenses play well together so that they can sell licenses to do crossover events.
Kind of like back in... Well, you know what that'll open up the door for is a second Amalgam event, which actually did stupidly well in the 90s.
Yeah. And that's going to be, I think, where things will eventually lead. But what'll happen is Marvel will get moved onto the main Disney lot, and they'll be directly, physically under the supervision of Kevin Feige.
Do you think ComicGate will actually be on the radar of the major publishing competitor at that point? Or do you
I don't think a competitor. It's not a competitor because it's a different kind of marketing.
Well, I think the end goal is to be a competitor, though, right? And by the time that all of this happens, I think they would have the opportunity to do so.
So, if you're the Brightwisers and a couple other people, your end goal is to be your own competitor. The bigger guys haven't gotten into that yet. Ethan hasn't gotten into that. Your boy Zach's not interested in being a competitor.
I would argue that Ethan has expressed explicitly that he intends to be a competitor. Like, he's talked about several different franchises that he wants to start in certain... Well, not franchises is the wrong word, but several different brands that he wants to start up. And if he wants to maintain them, the man's not going to live forever. We might get, 4 issues of each? 10, maybe? Well, by the time that he's done, he talked about 8 different projects, if I'm not mistaken.
But let's look at where the Jawbreakers are going. They're all getting spin-off comics. That's closer
to getting towards a competitor than what Ethan's doing. Ethan is doing high-end cachet comic books here and there. Mike was the first person to actually promote a crossover book for Lone Star 2. And that was the only reason I put money on Lone Star 2, was to get a crossover.
Okay.
In all honesty, if Rob Liefeld was to start up a company doing indie comic ventures, I wouldn't be surprised if Mellon signed back on to work with Rob again.
I would be interested in looking at that and covering it, but
yeah. But I think the big thing is that we haven't gotten to the point which Jawbreakers is a brand like Moon Knight for Marvel, for example.
Well, I don't think we'll ever get to that point necessarily, but I mean, think about the money Cyberfrog cumulatively made over $1 million, right?
It's made about $1 million now with all the different campaigns.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying, cumulatively, and with the brand franchising, with the coins and shit like that. But and none of that, like, not $1 million ever would go to Ethan's pocket because of fees and production cost and shipping cost and all that shit. Like, but the idea that a frog in what 2-3 years time tops is set to make $1 million into the economy.
I am sure that there are people who are working for the big two who are keeping track of what's going on. I'm sure there are smarter people in Boom and Dynamite and IDW who are keeping track of what's going on. They may not ever admit to it, but they may say, okay, these guys are doing X, Y, and Z. We can't sell our brand to our consumers with Z. Y would be a stretch, but what can we do with X? And I think that's where it is right now. And that's the thing with a counterculture art product. The power of counterculture art is always in influencing the bigger art and moving the needle, so to speak, on that discussion. So that is, I think, somewhat where the future of comics goes as this pendulum is pushing. As, they say, hey, Erica Henderson was one from Squirrel Girl, right?
I think so.
She's terrible at Squirrel Girl, but, literally everybody else who writes Squirrel Girl like a normal character does fine. And we have Squirrel Girl as a normal character on our cartoon shows. So
in a general sense of the word, I like quirky characters like that. Like Squirrel Girl I would have enjoyed that character if it would have been handled correctly in the current generation. But the fact that she was written as somebody that could, like, one-hit KO Thanos, like, I'm not okay with that. Like, that's not okay.
Well, there's a whole lot of tone and theme issues with Squirrel Girl. It's not the problem's not so much that she one-shot hit KOs Thanos, it's that she winks at the audience while she's doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
She's not Deadpool. She's not Deadpool, like the most ultimate domino mutant ever or whatever.
Or like how Deadpool had a conversation with Jennifer Walters about, why are you being mean and unpleasant? And she says, I want to be ugly. And in the context of this character, when she was beautiful, had sex with Wade. Mr. My body's living cancer and everything's ripped up and torn up and looks ugly.
Yeah.
That's again, it's the thing where the writing is not only bad.
We don't kink shame on this show, sir. Larry.
Yeah.
We don't kink shame on this show, sir.
Yeah.
You don't criticize what I did last week.
It's concerning that you said what you did, not who.
Exactly.
It's not concerning. Shut the fuck up.
But yeah, I'm saying, in a year or two, DC's going to probably reboot itself.
I don't doubt.
And
I don't think that'll even take that long. I think they're already kind of half-assed doing it with phasing out the entire Rebirth era and just moving like past the year of the villains and everything. I think they're going to quietly do it without.
Well, that's
a big
because Dan Didio loved what they did artistically with the New 52, and he wants to get back to that.
I don't
But
like the New
eventually-
52. I like original 52 though.
Yeah, but like there eventually somebody at Warner's gonna say, "Listen, dude, just dial this shit back.
Yeah.
We want to sell Superman branded merch to people in
Well,
their 20s to 50s."
It's really not
just-
even. It's really not even like Warner anymore. It's AT&T calling the shots, and I think AT&T
Yeah.
is seriously going to put them on the chopping block, and somebody's going to pick them up, even if it's not Disney. Like I think Disney is the safe choice, but if nobody else picks them up, like it's going to be another networking like era, like maybe.
Again, the brands are too valuable for streaming. They don't have to pay. They don't have to pay for IP to create new shows for HBO Max, which is their big streaming service,
No, I
or their
understand
DC
that,
branded streaming service.
But AT&T, like they're a lost leader as far as the comic book era goes, and if they lose more money than they seem to bring in, that's going to be a
But
problem.
that's not where DC makes its money. It makes its money on licenses.
True.
Not just the movies, not
Superman,
just the TV
Superman
show.
T-shirts make more than the comic book movie or than the comic books ever would.
Exactly.
More people buy Superman T-shirts every year than people spend on DC Comics every year. That's kind of been a constant fact.
Exactly.
But anyway, let's wrap this video.
Like
up
Marvel Comics 1 year, they did a deal with the New York Jets on the Hulk, and they made more than the Hulk had made in 10 years in comic form.
Oh yeah. But let's wrap this video up because we've turned a 16-minute video into almost a 45-minute conversation.
Let's not be Mauler, okay?
Are you saying let's keep talking?
So it's just gonna be.
All right, 11:55 and 3, 2, 1.
Such a garbage fire mess of the continuity. Nobody's going to know what's going on. Nobody's going to say, look, I just want to buy a Batman comic book and have a Batman story and be able to understand what's going on in my Batman comic book.
Yeah, they're going to need a new jumping on point because the only people that are going to understand what are going on are people that have been reading for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, getting back, let's finish up the trauma theory of literature. Is there anywhere else that you're seeing this at DC Comics specifically, or maybe even at Marvel, or people who are using this literature?
The Doom Patrol TV series on DC Online.
Is it
that's the entire point of all the characters in their first season. They're all going through their trauma. They've all hit a point where they say, yeah, this is me. This is a fundamental part of who I am, and I'm going to just power through that and become the hero. That was the entire arc of the series.
So I haven't really been watching Doom Patrol. I haven't really even been talking to people. Is that another one where it starts out good and then people are just like, what am I watching now?
No. The characters start off broken messes. Your point of view character is Brendan Fraser as a NASCAR race car driver who gets stuck in the body as Robot Man. And he has to learn how to do literally everything again. You have a character with multiple personality disorders. You have an actress who has her powers connected as a sort of eating disorder allegory. So they're all traumatic, broken messes, but they become good at the end. So that's the use of this literary theory of storytelling. People are broken. They come to terms with their trauma. They understand how their trauma influences their thoughts and how they approach the world, and then they use it to make the world better.
So
pausing at 13:50.
Okay.
This trauma theory that you keep referencing. Did you catch any of the Lock and Key series that we did?
No, I haven't kept up on that series.
Okay. Lock and Key is basically the story of a group of people in Lovecraft, Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Okay. But they move there after the father of the family is murdered by two of his students that he counseled because of something that his eldest son said when he was upset with him. But they moved to this place called Key House, which has magical properties that are unlocked by certain keys. But the basis of the story is how every character is uniquely damaged. Like the eldest son is completely devoid of, facing his emotional trauma. He's the rock implicitly or whatever. The daughter is so stubborn that she removes her grief and her her grief and her anger, I think it is.
Her sadness and ability to cry or something like that.
Right. And the youngest child is just so, I don't know, absent-minded or oblivious or whatever you want to call it, that he is unaware of the trauma and continues to function normally while facing further trauma because of how broken everyone is around him.
Yeah.
I think that fits in well here, but I think it's an example of how trauma theory is properly applied in comics.
Right. And that's the thing. While I've noticed this has become a very influential theory across a whole lot of media, there are more strong examples of how to do it effectively than the bad examples. The bad examples, though, once you learn what this is and you see it in the bad examples, it helps you learn to see it elsewhere.
Well, I think that Tom King kind of completely screwed the pooch on his run as Batman. Like I think that he took an idea that he had and he overplayed the hand that wasn't strong enough, right?
Well, he is all about post-traumatic stress disorder as his central big thing he likes to talk about in his stories.
Well,
and then you think about him as a former CIA operative operating overseas during the early days of the global war on terror. And it makes you wonder what happened in Tom King's life to make him so fascinated by that.
Well, one thing that I want to point out is that it almost kind of seamlessly goes back to the poker allegory, though, because he overplays his hand and then he continues to double down and double down and double down some more. Like
it's his one trick.
He bets himself into a grave, and he'll do it all the way to the end of his run.
Also, like a football allegory, right? He's the hotshot young quarterback that you get off the bench because your starter's not doing good. And he's hot and really flashy, does really good for a while, but then everybody figures him out. And then he's just toast. But the team won't, bench him because, they invested this time and money into him. And then it goes on for a couple of years. And then he becomes the haggard veteran who gets pulled off and put on the bench.
Right. Set out pasture, so to speak.
Yeah, and again with football allegory,
that's exactly what happened to Brian Michael Bendis when he went to DC.
Yeah,
because he knew that he had been relegated at Marvel to reinventing Iron Man. That to the point, and I made this point earlier, when if you're gonna put a writer on Iron Man who's gonna reintroduce Iron Man as a not even a middle, a teenage mixed race. Half Caucasian, half African American female named Riri Williams, who stole all of her gimmicks and plans and built her.
And wanted her kindergarten teacher to be a racist to her. Don't forget that part.
Right. Virtue signal. I love Israel and the Jews.
Oh, of course.
But when you have someone writing that story, you don't protect yourself by having someone else write the story of Victor Von Doom donning the mantle of Iron Man in another title named The Infamous Iron Man that runs simultaneously to Riri Williams' origin.
You need to pick one replacement and stick with it.
Right. Like you either make it the bad guy that turns good, or you need to make it the Mary Sue black chick that's modeled after Brian Michael Bendis' daughter. One or the other. You can't have both. If you have both, people are going to look at you and say, "Oh, you didn't think the character could survive as a black chick? Well, you're just racist." Or they're going to look at you and say, "Oh, you needed the black chick to ride the coattails of a white dude? You're racist." Nobody's ever going to be satisfied no matter what you do. You're never going to please these people. Stop fucking trying. Sorry. I apologize. I just, I've seen it so many times. Like, you're not going to make these people happy with your virtue signaling no matter what you do. It's just, tell your story. Do not try and tell the story you think people want to read. Because the story you think people want to read is not going to be bought. The story that people want to read is not going to get published.
Exactly.
Anyway, we have less than 2.5 minutes. Let's see if we can get through this video and then wrap the night
I
up.
doubt it.
We can.
In your opinion,
13:51 and 3, 2, 1, go.
Tom King's Batman wasn't always doomed to fail because he's using this literary device. It failed because he used it inappropriately or didn't know what he was doing.
It's doomed to...
No, go ahead. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's just you on the video. 14:01, go.
Yeah.
fail because, as they said, the Prestige, making something disappear isn't a magic trick. It's making it come back. Making Batman disappear into a broken sad sack of a mess of a person isn't the magic trick. The magic trick is how Batman comes out of that literal pit of despair to fight his way back, to save Gotham, to restore the trust in his family, and be the hero he's always been. And say, I had this tragedy in my life. I always thought I was suicidally depressed and that was what drove me. But no, I found out when I hit absolute rock bottom, this is what drives me. This thing right here.
So he should have read more of Frank Miller's Daredevil.
Yeah. Literally, Frank Miller's Daredevil is the trick he needed to do for the third act of this giant train wreck he's taken us all on. So,
well, thank you very much, for explaining that. For me and the viewers, I think people are going to find this very interesting, and I think they'll start seeing this theory being played out in more mainstream stuff, and be like, oh, that's how it was supposed to be used.
Yeah, and if you Google this theory, you'll then look at all of these quote unquote SJW approaches in media. You'll say, oh, they're trying to do this thing that's kind of smart, but they're doing it in the stupidest way possible because they don't want to put in the work of developing a good story.
They're using a good tool, but they don't know how to use it.
Right. And that's why even Alan Moore says, I overdid it with deconstruction. I went too far in places. But unfortunately, all of these people have learned the wrong lessons from Alan Moore.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% there. That's another video, though. So, Larry, thank you so much for joining me today. Can't wait to have back on the Comics Aficionados and talk some more literary theory in the future.
Cool.
Later.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much.
No. We're not going to let you shill on our channel until you invite you on.
What?
Oh no, him. We're not going to let Wes shill on our channel until he invites us on.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. You can stop before the video promo somebody on your channel. That's totally fair.
Yeah,
a shill for a shill.
Right. Like we definitely want you to check out Wes's channel, but until he
because it's a really good channel.
Ours, but until he invites us on his, we can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. By the way. Now, what you said about Alan Moore going too far with deconstructionism, have you seen any of the Watchmen?
Oh, the Watchmen series is absolute trash.
It is. But do you agree that it's gotten better episode by episode?
It absolutely had to be because the first episode was so terrible.
It was. It was the worst fucking
That's what
thing
I
I've
said.
seen on television since,
So
I
so
opened
there's this
my
great-
eyes.
So there's this great quote that Max Landis had before he did the Dirk Gently series. That, with adaptions, what most people do is they cut things away. But you can't cut away like a Douglas Adams story because it's like a good piece of pork. Because if you cut away the fat from the story, then it loses all of its flavor. So this is a story that is cutting away all the wrong things instead of focusing on being the flavor of the Watchmen. It's cutting away, well, we can't have nuclear wars. We're going to replace nuclear war with Black Lives Matter and political tensions in the country.
What, do you not think Black Lives Matter?
From a technical nihilist position, I believe that
all lives
are
matter.
Meaningless. All lives are equally meaningless.
No lives matter.
Matters.
Does that mean
fair.
Does that mean that's our movement? No lives matter.
No lives
I mean,
matter.
that's what I was saying.
Oh man, is that a great rainbow job?
But like the whole thing with the raining of the squid, that was just really stupid. Because
totally agree.
It was an extra dimensional squid that teleported in, so why would it be raining baby squid?
Right. Like, it would just occasionally be another extra dimensional squid that fell into the time portal and, died on impact.
Yeah.
And so now a second blast that killed like another couple 100,000 people.
But the Supreme run that Alan Moore did was his apology for some of the stuff he did with deconstruction of comic book characters. If you either of you guys have ever read that, you should.
What is it?
Alan Moore did a run on Supreme where he kind of addresses a lot of the stuff that he did, where he dressed down the Golden and Silver Age.
Supreme or Squadron Supreme? Supreme,
no,
Supreme.
The Superman.
The Image Superman?
Yeah.
Oh,
he did a run on that.
Yeah, I have the run on that. I just never read it. I own it.
Yeah.
I just haven't picked it up yet.
Basically, instead of, like being belligerent towards Golden Age and Silver Age comic book stuff like Alan Moore today would be, he was more loving and respectful of it. And he used that to tell a kind of Alan Moore story.
Are there penises in it?
It's been a while since I've looked at the artwork, so.
Is that a yes?
As I said, it's been a while since I've looked at the artwork. I don't remember, man. But yeah, so this was fun tonight.
I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate you coming on and adding your commentary and agreeing with us that the comic book is a major bitch.
Yeah, and now it won't be weird when I have my mail campaign for my comic book to come on and say, hey, can I promote my mailing list?
Oh, no, it wouldn't have been weird before, but, it's not weird now either.
Exactly. But I do like to, at least, come on, contribute a little bit of content and stuff.
There you go.
And,
well, I definitely appreciate it. It's been a great show. I've loved every second of it. We're like almost 3 hours in.
But definitely check out some of those Jim Cornette videos where he talks about wrestling stories.
Oh man, maybe we can make that a segment.
Great stories.
We'll talk about it after the show, maybe tomorrow. Because I'm gonna have to go to sleep and deal with our hangover. We need to do like a weekly segment where we have you come on for like 20 minutes and talk about a Jim Cornette video. We'll just call it Last Week in Wrestling.
Anyway, I should also probably get to sleep. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks
for coming on, buddy. It's been a blast. Have a good one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's about all we have for you. Thanks all of you for sticking around. Thanks everybody who dropped in. We definitely appreciate it. And remember, kids, YouTube drama is for the fish sticks. I'm waiting.
Good night, everybody.